drive active.
Why 2 shamans? I keep changing my buttons and it keeps fucking me up. It's so annoying. Ugh. Oh, damn it. I almost had him. Why is it always 2 people? Every single fight I get into, 2 people! Every fucking time! Every fight for the last 5 months, 2 people! Drives me fucking crazy! Fucking so annoying. I'm sick of fighting 2 people. Can I get a fair fight? Ever? Ever. Jesus Christ, man. It's always 2 people jacking off. You know they're boys and they're together. You want to know why you see so many duos? It's boys and they're together. Which is fine. What? Come on! I was nowhere the fuck near you! Nowhere near you! Nowhere near you! It's like you got off your pad and came 25 feet over to me. Fucking so annoying. There's always 2. Now there's 3. These assholes are taking my spot. It's so annoying. So annoying. Fucking stupid boss music always breaks my fucking concentration. That's why I thought they always made it so bad. They always made boss music sound so bad. And Bethesda fucking chortling or whatever you want to call that weird chanting, right? The Bethesda chanting too sounds so bad. Oh, you fucking dick. You fucking dick. They split up a lot, which is good. And this guy seems like he's AFK. I want to gank him, but the other guy, I want to wait till the other guy pulls. There you go, there you go. Alright, let's get this guy. What? He's AFK and he still wins because he's got 5 times the gear. He's got 5 times the gear. It's so annoying. Can I get a fair fight? Why would his PvE or gear matter in a PvP engagement? You should just equalize this the second combat starts. I'm sick of disparities and unfairnesses and everything that you do. You always stack the decks against me, fucking against me. The motherfucker always has 5 times the guns, 5 times the gear I do. It's so fucking annoying. Well, I'm sorry, I'm just not a loser who plays only WoW, you know? And has all blues by 3 weeks in, and, you know, and all this shit. It's, like, weird. I want a fair fight. Just a normal person, not these fucking douchebags. Fortnite's like this, too. The sweats, right? I just call them the sweats, right? Fucking sweats. The damage stops. The damage stops. Like 3/4 of the way down their bar, my damage just fucking full-blown stops. I don't understand it. Doesn't really make sense. Idiots. I just want a fair fight. I always feel like I'm a fucking peasant fighting Rupert Murdoch. It's so annoying. Can't you just equalize us? Who the fuck wants to go try to kill a guy who's got 80% or 8 times the damage you do and 8 times the tanking? Where's the fun in that? That's that dishonorable bullshit. You hard-code it even into the design of the game, that dishonorable bullshit where one guy's got a fucking advantage and the other one doesn't. And it's like, it's so stupid. Like every time I got a fair advantage, sorry, a fair fight in arena, I won. I would have beat all these guys, you know what I'm saying? If I had their gear, I would beat them, but I don't jack off to WoW all goddamn day and only WoW, you know? For 20 years. I'm not like that. Haven't been for a long time. Ugh, can't get a fair fight in Fortnite. Can't get a fair fight in fucking WoW. I'm ready to just leave PvP entirely, you know? I can do that too. I can go to the PvE server on Rust, where I don't have to be harassed by douchebags all day with small penises, you know what I'm saying, in like fucking god complexes or whatever. And when I go do it, and I don't know, I can't. The only PvP that I can stand anymore is Overwatch, which is just fucked up because it's the worst one, and it's just so bad. It's such a bass-ackwards world now, where you can't get a fucking fair fight. It used to be you could only get fair fights, you know. And we used to complain about it, you know. Now it's like you can't get a fair fight, no matter what game you go to. Especially headshot games. So stupid. They're all cheating and bullshit like that. That guy wasn't cheating. He's not level 2 characters. He's only level 1. Him and his friend have only level 1. So they've got 3 weeks of gear on me. Or it would be a fair fight. This is why I like stuff like EVE Online. Rust is a bit fairer. Because it's like, no matter what, you can still kill the guy in basically a fair fight. Unless it's 2v1. If it's a 1v1, it's a fair fight. But in these RPGs, it's not. They always have some fucking shithead advantage that they lord over, that they consider skill. But it's just a clever use of game mechanics to prove that they have a small penis and can't hold it up in anything else other than gear. It's so annoying. My damage just stops on that guy. Doesn't really make sense. Like, I get him down to 20%. And of course, I've got to get the energy back. But then I watch my bar tick five full times, right? The initial 100 energy that I spent drops them down to like 30. And then I get 5 more bars of the initial 100 that I spent. But I can't get another 70% like I got off the first 100. The second 100 is like another fucking 4% or something. Third 100 is like 4%. And you're like, why? The first 100 energy dropped him to 40. Why is it like this? And then it's just the end. The damage just stops. It's like weird. It's something they do some divisory thing. I don't know what it is. He must have used the defense. I mean, what defensive does Shaman have at this level? I don't think so. Yeah, what is it? It's oh god, I can't think of it. Earth something. Earth Totem. Earth Totem is, I guess, defensive. That was the tank I was trying to kill. He was a Shaman tank. So, I mean, I heard him, you know. He was a tank I was trying to kill. He's an enhanced Shaman tank. I almost killed him, you know. I should have gone for his fucking friend, but his friend's like an elemental, so he's hard to kill too. He can just dump heals and stuff. So dumb. I don't know where I'm going, but I gotta get away from the beach while they're there, and I want to go someplace where I can skin. So I suppose another way I could solve all my money problems is killing whelps. I mean, I don't know. They'll probably hurt me really bad because I don't have the rune, but I'm working on that. I need someplace I can skin. Yeah, like the raptors. The raptors would do. Frankly, I'm not picky. I just want to skin stuff. AFK, you know. My WoW day is over. Frankly, I kind of want to log here. Frankly, I've had too much WoW today. Those guys piss me off.
The asteroid bullshit is depleted.
What's up, MJ? Yes, I did. I did a whole like 2 hours on it earlier today. We watched a link of, well, you obviously just saw it. Yes, I did watch it today. In the history, what did we watch? It was like yeah, I did the Meet Kevin, Jeffrey Epstein 1 and 2, part 1 and part 2. It was pretty good. He covered it pretty. You know, there was another interview. I'm not getting a sound notification from my chatty. Oh my god. Fucking stupid ass goddamn worthless software. Fucking failure. Can't even get a fucking sound effect fire off right. Come on, man. What's your problem? Should I fix it? Or should I restart it? No, you're glitched or something dumb. One sec, guys. Gotta restart my chatty so I can understand the people who are talking to me. That's what's that about? Yeah, that's what? What? Excuse me just a second, guys. Got a lot of interruptions here. I apologize. Okay. Gotta do something here. Okay, so I'm gonna disconnect here. I'm terribly sorry for just a second. I'm gonna go piss while this goes. Sorry about that, guys. I realized that I probably lost a bunch of you. I realized I did. Sorry about that. I had a problem with my VPN. Had to fix it. And but we're all good now. And very good. What was I gonna say? Gotta read what he said. Doubt they even have half of the corrupt bank corporate overlords that control the world. Yeah, I know. They don't even have like half of them, you know. I don't believe we've ever had a conviction of any world banker. Ever. I mean what I say. We've never convicted a banker ever. Ever. There's no world police to do it. We don't convict bankers. Yeah, but it has been crazy, yeah. Let's go see what's going on with that shit. Let's go see. I haven't seen what's going on in the world today. I'm glad there wasn't another insurrection. That's good. You know, kind of. Ooh. Wow, this was 12 hours long. God damn.
That hurts it, so I'm going to do this. Okay. We have all of our...
Nah, but it was good. Google search decay, internet rot, and esoteric internet. Yes, let's talk about how Google and all the Microsofts of the world are decaying. Yeah, let's do it. I'm the only one who thinks this.
Google search is declining. Is this a disease?
Yeah, Google search is declining. Oh, I was crazy when I said that one, wasn't I? It's like, it's funny, if I were to do videos about the things that I think, like these people do, I would be 3 months ahead of the curve, because I've been talking about that for like 3 months. Straight up how Google, or longer than that, yeah, like a year now, it's been like a year now, Google search has seriously degraded, like all of the billionaire software development.
Or a symptom. Well, the depreciation of the usefulness of Google search has been a topic in tech circles for at least...
you know, they left Bill Gates out of the Jeffrey. Was Bill Gates in... Yeah, like Jeffrey, whatever the thing. No, I'm looking for something like from this week, like this week. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, but not Bill Gates, which was weird. Yeah, we got caught up in this today for about 4 hours when I started, or I think that was yesterday actually. It's interesting. But there has the only other bit that I wanted to see was Jeffrey Epstein's brother's interview with Tucker Carlson. I think it was like Tucker, Jeffrey Epstein brother. And I think it was Tucker. I think that's Tucker Carlson that I saw, didn't I? Yeah, that's him. Yeah. So we'll watch this because they did experts to this in the video that I watched, but this seemed like the more juicy part of the story, kind of. So
it's interesting to learn who Jeffrey Epstein hung around with.
Thank you, Tucker Carlson, for the excellent content for my stream. I don't believe I've ever watched any Tucker Carlson, so I don't know who is Tucker Carlson. I've heard the name a lot, but I don't know who it is. Yeah, let's look at the wiki. Probably be the safest here. Okay, American conservative political commentator and writer who hosted the nightly political... Oh, yeah, is he Fox News? Okay. I mean, that makes this a little shittier.
Flew on his airplane.
But, I mean, whatever. This is, How old is this? This is from 2 days ago. So this is the source material about what some of them were talking about. And I missed this part of it, so we'll watch this. This will be entertaining.
Who stayed on his private island in the Caribbean, those who had dinner at his home. It's interesting to learn who Jeffrey Epstein hung around with while he was alive. People who flew on his airplane, people who stayed on his private island in the Caribbean, those who had dinner at his home off Fifth Avenue in New York. And to some extent, those names are coming out. Not all of them.
Why does he look like Trump?
Who are in
He's got the orange
life,
face.
and we have for several years now.
And I really wish that he wasn't doing the interview, because I don't want to see an orange face on the interview. It's like watching an Oompa Loompa try to conduct business.
But on another level,
it's really hard for me to do. So I'm going to leave the camera off of it, guys. I'm sorry. Or I won't make it through the video.
That whole story seems like a bit...
Watching an orange face in 2024 is frankly emotionally disturbing to me.
A sideshow, because it doesn't answer the main mysteries surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's life or death. And there are 3 of them, almost none of which is ever discussed in the media. The first is, who did Jeffrey Epstein work for? What did Jeffrey Epstein do for a living, and on whose behalf? We don't know. The second question is, where did all the money come from? Hundreds of millions of dollars that passed through his hands over many years. And where is it now? We don't know that either. And the third question may be the most pressing of all, which is, what happened to Jeffrey Epstein? On August 10, 2019, he was found dead in the Federal Correction Facility in Manhattan, in one of the most secure places in the world. Did he kill himself, as the government has claimed ever since, or was he murdered? Well, the overwhelming evidence suggests that he was in fact murdered, and that the US government, including the Attorney General of the United States, covered up that murder. These are the questions that matter most, and they're exactly the ones not being addressed in the news media. Why is that? We decided to speak to someone who has insight into this question, and that is Jeffrey Epstein's only surviving relative. His name is Mark Epstein, who was Jeffrey Epstein's brother.
Mark Epstein. I didn't know what his name was.
Successful real
Okay, guys, I haven't eaten today, so I'm going to make a sandwich. Won't take me but 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
So the interview that follows is one that you will listen to rather than see. Mark Epstein refused to appear on camera, but we think what he has to say is worth hearing. Here it is. Do you think your brother killed himself?
Not now. No. When I first heard he was dead from suicide, I had no reason to doubt it, so I accepted that. But then after the autopsy, and after Bill Barr made that asinine statement, I said, this was not a suicide.
But when you first heard the news, you thought it was a possibility that he killed himself.
Yeah, I accepted it as a fact. I heard it on the news. The government didn't notify me, as they said. I heard it on CNN in the morning of the 10th.
And you're his only survivor. You're the only surviving relative.
Yes, yes. He has no children, and our parents are gone. And there's no other siblings.
When did you start to think that he did not kill himself?
Well, after the autopsy, and both pathologists, the city pathologist and Dr. Barden, came out of the autopsy, and they said, this doesn't look like a suicide. It looks more like a homicide.
So what did you do then?
Well, okay, I figured we'd have to look into this and see what's going on.
Were you shocked that he might have been killed?
It came as a surprise, yeah.
So as his only surviving relative, what did you do to find out what happened to him?
Well, I started to inquire about what took place. You know, the Justice Department was supposedly investigating. The initial death certificate said pending when it said cause of death, which means pending further investigation.
Yes.
So, but then a few days later, it was declared a suicide by the chief pathologist, who was not at the autopsy. And the questions became, what investigation was done in such a short period of time to make her determine it was a suicide, or was she basing it on Bill Barr's statement?
And who was the chief pathologist who made that declaration?
Dr. Roman.
That was the pathologist who was there.
No, that was, Sampson. Barbara Sampson was the chief pathologist. Dr.
Right.
Roman did the actual autopsy with Dr. Barden.
So Barbara Sampson is the person who declared it officially a suicide, and she was not, as you said, at the autopsy, and she was not present for it.
Correct. And you know, when they call it a suicide, they stop investigating. Because if there's a suicide, there's really nothing to investigate.
Right.
If it's a suicide. Because somebody killed themselves, case closed. So that's how they can just sort of cover it up. They never did an investigation. They never interviewed the EMTs that were called to the jail. They never interviewed the hospital personnel where his body was shipped. I can't get any answers as to what investigation was done. When I met with the Justice Department people,
he looks
a
angry.
few months after the death, every question I asked,
Like really
was
angry,
answered by saying, after a thorough investigation, we determined it was a suicide. It was like them pleading the fifth. I got the same answer to every question I asked.
So, did you speak to Barbara Sampson, the official who ruled this a suicide?
No, I haven't been able to get to her.
Oh, she never called you.
No.
So, in her public explanation, she has been asked about this. We tried to reach out to her. She refused to speak to us for reasons we don't understand. But in her official explanation,
I know what the
she
reasons
suggested
are.
that she
You're
ruled
Fox
it
News.
a suicide.
When you say
Effectively
we reached out to her, you're saying Fox News reached out to her, and I know why she didn't talk. It's Fox News for reasons we can't figure out.
actually from the autopsy.
And it's not that Fox News is
Because
bad;
her
it's
brother
that the
had
people who
attempted
watch it
suicide previously.
are kind of extreme.
Yeah, but that's been shown to be
tiny bit.
false. You can listen
Little
to
bit.
David Schoen, his attorney, on the podcast, the Crime Waves podcast. He explains that Jeff was attacked by his cellmate.
I don't want to watch
He
his
reported
face. I
himself
can't do
because
it.
He was afraid of retaliation.
I can't watch his face. It's very weird to me.
But every news account of his initial injuries in the weeks before his death said that he had tried to kill himself in his cell. He was found in fetal position on the floor after a failed suicide attempt, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, once somebody says that, then everyone picks up the same story, and then it becomes, the truth, just because it's been repeated so many times. But the fact is, he did not attempt suicide that first time.
So if he didn't try and kill himself the first time, then the medical examiner had no basis to declare this a suicide.
Exactly. But there's reasons why he wouldn't kill himself then. He had a hearing scheduled to appeal the bail decision coming up in a few days. And the bail was being increased. So there's a chance he could have got bail. Even as unpalatable as that might have been to some people, in the United States you're entitled to bail under certain conditions. But, so I could see if he went for the hearing for bail and it was denied, then I can see him taking himself out if he didn't want to spend a year in jail waiting for a trial.
Yeah.
Not a few days before. That makes no sense.
In your conversations with him and in your conversations with the people who were in contact with him in the final weeks of his life, was there any indication at all that he was suicidal at any point?
No, I had no conversations with him once he was arrested. I spoke to him the day before he was arrested. He actually called me from Paris, just the usual, how you doing kind of phone call. And the next day, his attorneys called me and told me he was arrested. That was the last time I spoke with him. I didn't speak to him or see him while he was in jail.
It's always 7 p.m. when I
having
get back to
spoken
Rust.
his lawyers
It's so
and
annoying.
people whom he communicated with from jail, did anybody say that he seemed suicidal?
No, everybody was shocked that it was a suicide. Nobody thought he was going to kill himself. Nobody thought he would do that.
So what's interesting is that the Attorney General of the United States at the time, Attorney General Barr, said publicly and then wrote in his
At
memo
the time.
that he had concluded conclusively that this was a suicide based on two pieces of evidence. One, the medical examiner, the person who performed the autopsy, declared it a suicide, which is a lie. That didn't happen. And two, because he had viewed the videotape at the entrance to the tier, to the cell block where your brother was being held. What do you make of that explanation?
Well, when I heard Barr's statement that he said he personally saw the videotape and he concluded it was a suicide because nobody went in or out, that's when it hit me that he's covering this up, because there's two sort of fallacies in that. One, I thought, why is the Attorney General of the United States, who I imagine to be a busy guy, why is he personally watching the videotape? Couldn't he have two people in his office watching the videotape and say, hey, Bill, nobody went in or out? Wouldn't that suffice? And two, to assume that somebody could get to that door, go inside, kill somebody, get out completely undetected is just ridiculous, because I believe there are 6 levels of security before you get to that door. So to assume that somebody could do it that way is crazy. And any third-rate investigator will tell you that there was anywhere from 7 to 14 people on the other side of that door, on handed to you that could have killed somebody. And I had been told from another source, I've been getting a lot of information from those sources, that cell doors were left unlocked that night. I don't know how many cell doors or whose cell doors, but if cell doors were left unlocked, then somebody could have went into Jeff's cell, killed him, went back into their cell, undetected. Now, in the Justice Department report, it says that from 3 cells, you could see Jeff's cell door. But if you look at the photographs of the tier, there's tiny windows in the cell doors. So in order to see Jeff's cell door from another cell, you'd have to be standing at that window inside the other cells in the middle of the night looking towards Jeff's cell. And if somebody crept low beneath the height of that window, you wouldn't see that. So the fact that, to say that he could be seen from 3 other cells and they didn't see anything, well, chances are the other prisoners were sleeping in those cells if they had nothing to do with it. So again, it's just like a cover-up line.
Right. So in other words, the Attorney General said that nobody moved on to the cell block according to the videotape, but that is irrelevant because if your brother was murdered, he was almost certainly murdered by someone who was already on the cell block.
Exactly. Right.
So given that, and it's obvious and logical when you think about it for about 10 seconds, the identities of the other inmates on that cell block are critical. Your
Yes.
brother was alone in his cell.
Right.
So any one of those inmates could have killed your brother. Do we know who they were?
No, I can't find out who they were. There were 7 other cells, each with 1 or 2 people in them.
Yes.
Which means it's either anywhere from 7 to 14 people, other than my brother on the tier at
Right.
night. I don't know who they are, or I know one, that guy Tattaglione, who was Jeff's cellmate for a while. He was there, and he was there for a long time. So if Jeff was killed, it's a possibility that somebody was planted in there. Cell doors were left unlocked. And then from what I understand, a number of prisoners were transferred off of that tier after the death. So if somebody was planted, he killed Jeff, and a day or 2 later he's transferred out, and he disappears into the ether. I don't know who the prisoners were. I'd like to find out who they are, and where are they now?
So there's, of course, a record of this. These are federal inmates in a facility run by the Department of Justice, the Bureau of Prisons overseen by the Department of Justice. So it's not like nobody knows who they were.
Now they have to have a record.
Right.
Sure.
But they will not release that to you.
I haven't been able to get anything.
Let's go down the chain of documents that might explain this mystery. So the first would be the records of the first responders, the EMTs, who arrived at the scene and moved your brother's body from the cell to...
No, that's what I had thought, but when I spoke to an EMT, when they got to the prison, Jeff was already in the infirmary. The prison people moved him to the infirmary, which they were not supposed to do, because when he was found, he was clearly dead. The autopsy showed he was dead for at least 2 hours before he was found. So at that point, they're supposed to leave the body and call the medical examiner's office so they can come, take photographs, do the initial testing, whatever they do when they find a dead body. But that wasn't done. They moved him to the infirmary. And
They moved his corpse to the infirmary, but notified nobody else?
well, a 911 call was made to get the EMTs, and we can't get a copy of the 911 call, which is, we hear 911 calls for all sorts of other cases. This one seems to be missing. When they got there, he was in the infirmary, and he was clearly dead because, like I said, he'd been dead for 2 hours. And there was a photograph of him being wheeled out of the prison where he was intubated, squeezing an air bulb to try to get, so I was questioning, why are they trying to put, pump air into a clearly dead body? Were they trying to make it look like he was alive so that he could be declared dead in the hospital? Because what I've been told, normally when they find dead bodies in the prisons, they want to ship them to the hospital. So they're declared dead in the hospital. Because an unwritten rule is nobody dies in prison. They don't want to deal with it. So they ship him to the hospital where he's declared dead. And when I questioned the EMT why they were intubating him, I said because he was dead for at least 2 hours. The response I got was, how do you know that? It was a kind of a strange response. But I knew that from the autopsy.
So we don't know who moved him out of the cell. No person has come forward to say, I moved this corpse from the cell.
No. But I was also told that in the infirmary and in the hospital, there was somebody with a handheld video camera. all the time, running, videotaping everything. Where are those tapes? That's another question.
Despite the fact that your brother was dead in his cell and had been dead for 2 hours.
At least 2 hours.
At least 2 hours.
Yeah.
Somebody cut off his clothing and redressed the corpse in hospital scrubs, in a gown.
Yeah, I have a photograph of him in a hospital gown on a gurney in a hospital where, you know, his arms were put through the sleeves. It's one of those gowns you're talking about. So the question becomes...
So you got to understand the comical CIA, Howard Hunt, like ineptitude here. They literally Weekend at Bernie's Jeffrey Epstein's corpse, and they like moved him dead. They discovered him dead after 2 hours. They moved him to the infirmary where they declared him dead again. Then they called a hospital and moved the body and dressed him up. They took him out of his prison clothes and dressed him up like Weekend at Bernie's. And then they moved him around to 3 locations. It was like his body was essentially a puppet. And they were like dancing it around to make sure that their lie would stick, you know? And so they Weekend at Bernie's him, and they moved him 3 times. They were going to move the corpse anyways, but before they alerted the world or the press or anybody, or even made it a matter of public record, they moved his body twice, which is always really, really, really suspect. Because when you look at and of course I'm not a detective. I don't want to be. My extent of detective shit is from like Law and Order, right? I don't know shit about being a detective. I don't know. But my understanding has always been, and just because a television show portrays it this way doesn't mean that it's true. But most movies and televisions depict the cops seem to care. If you mess up the crime scene, if you move it, if you move a body, you've got to show why. You've got to sign off on the evidence chain and all this stuff. So not only did they violate his civil rights by moving his dead body, essentially, before they declared him dead, they also does a dead man have civil rights? I think that it's more like the victim. They kind of violated the civil rights of the family, sort of, by kibitzing with the dead body. I'm not sure what kind of violation it is. I would need to be a lawyer. I really don't know. I don't know what they did that you could get them on, which is part of it. And so they Weekend at Bernie's the dead body, and they moved it from the infirmary, from the jail cell to the infirmary to the hospital, at which point the world found out that it had happened. And that's very weird. That is the sort of, and I mean, I believe him on this. That is the sort of thing that you would hear in the Jack Ruby case. Jack Ruby was the guy who shot Lee Harvey Oswald, right? He was so mad at the death of America. I mean, the death of JFK was the death of America. And so Jack Ruby was supposedly, who knows what that whole story is, but supposedly was so pissed at him that he shot Lee Harvey Oswald like in cold blood right there in the hallway of the fucking, of the building that he was in. And that was the death of America, but it was just kind of crazy. Like, they moved his body a bunch of times. They moved JFK's body a bunch of times. It's immediately what I think of as JFK. They moved his body a bunch of times before they truly declared. I mean, he didn't die at first, for one thing.
Normally, they're either in a body bag or covered in it by a sheet.
That's bizarre.
Yes.
And 4.5 years later, you have no answers at all on any of these questions.
No.
And I've tried to get the PCR report, or the ACR report, which is the report that the EMTs fill out on every call they make. It's just the record-keeping system, and these are filed with the fire department. And as the video I sent you showed, they have no record.
Depleted.
So there are essentially no records of what happened at all. There's no videotape. The cameras were broken. The guards who are supposed to be keeping watch were asleep. They were convicted of lying, but then they were pardoned by a judge later, apparently. One still works for the federal government.
I believe so, yes. I tried to talk to the guards. I couldn't get to them. I tried to contact them through their attorneys, and I couldn't get to them.
Okay, so then there was famously an
good guards, good American guards are gonna want to be on the side of the victim's family and tell them what happened. But I guess when the victim's a child molester, they don't have any rights, and that's okay, I guess. I don't really have that much of a complaint of like once you're a convicted child molester. I kind of really don't feel like you should have any rights left, you know? Maybe they should be able to just savage your dead body and dance it around the hallways of the morgue and the fucking infirmary and the fucking prison and the fucking jail and the fucking, you know, the hospital, I guess. They can weekend a Bernie's him. He's a child molester who's dead. What rights does he have? They can do whatever they want with him. I think that's the whole point of this. I think they wanted a focal point for all of their corruption, and they figured it would be the fall guys selling them all the girls. But no, you're the guys buying the girls. You're the guys buying those kids, like, you know. And yeah, he's part of the problem. But I mean, it's the Johns that are the problem. The pimp's part of the problem too, but the Johns are the real source of the issue, though. We wouldn't have pimps if we didn't have buyers, you know? And so you can tell, like, they were like, oh, wait, maybe we can just blame it all on Jeffrey and we're done. And I think that's kind of what they did. And I think that's kind of how they did it. And I think they got it away with it. I think they were like, oh, man, I think the whole world needs somebody to blame for the fact that we're all that the politicians are all child molesters. And so let's just blame Jeffrey and then we'll whack him in his cell gangland style, you know, like D'Angelo Barksdale from fucking The Wire. And
by the Department of Justice's head investigator. Where's that?
Well, they came out with the report, you know, a few months ago, and for 4 years we've been trying to find out what position his body was in when it was found.
Assume the position.
Couldn't get an answer to that.
You're
either.
a dead child molester in America. A dead convicted child molester in America. Your dead body has no rights. How long will they weekend at Bernie's you? Is it 16 hours? 24? 38. The answer was 38 hours. I'm just kidding. It's like Mr. Belvedere in the fucking oratory with the candelabra stick. Kill Jeffrey. Oh, God damn it. Sorry. I really like making fun of the pig dog fuckers that run this country. they're like the characters on the covers of board games. they're almost Methuselah in their and their desire to like like be the Monopoly guy. or like play mystery, play Clue, you know. Mr. Belvedere in the prison infirmary with a belt. It's like how much of a joke our fucking country and our government has become. The orange face will interrogate them all.
He was hanging from the top bunk. So if you picture that,
I like mocking them. They're so fucking serial, goddamn suit dummies. Everything you guys do is a fucking scammy, fraudulent joke lie. I'll fucking mock you right to your face. This shit with Jeffrey, complete debacle. And I'll mock you right to your fucking face. Mr. Belvedere with the belts in the prison infirmary.
basically all of his body weight, or most of his body weight, was hanging by this noose around his neck. Or this noose around his neck. He had some weight on his feet, but the bulk of his 180 some odd pounds.
So the whole country starts to play Clue. It's kind of like when everybody loves a good murder mystery. Remember O.J. Simpson or JonBenet Ramsey? Everybody loves a good murder mystery, right? So this whole debacle, this is going to go down for years. They're going to really want to know what happened to this guy, and they're never going to find out. Was it the CIA in the prison cell with the Breaking Bad prison shank? Or was it the FBI in the infirmary with some poison? Was it the deep state in the hospital? This episode of Clue. God damn it. Fucking joke bastards running our country. Fucking, I don't know a better word for it. They're like joke bastards. Their lives and their concepts and their cover-ups are so fucking bad of a joke that they're like the March of the Bastards mixed with a joke. So I call them joke bastards. It's like a Christian thing, right? Like jerk op, right? Yeah, they're joke bastards. They're like people who tell you so many lies that their whole reality becomes a joke. And then but they're the March of the Bastards. They're the system, so it's really scary. It's really scary when the system in the March of the Bastards becomes a joke, like a literal national fucking murder mystery joke. Ooh, and all the integrity of the guards is in question, and all the integrity of the politicians is in question, and all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put all the child molesters in our government back together again.
Tore him down. His buttocks.
Shit writes itself.
Again, which means his body weight was on his neck.
Fucking joke bastards.
Now, if somebody's hanging like that, the noose or the ligature would hold up high on your neck and go.
I want to laugh harder, but I can't. Get close to crying.
But,
Goddamn March of the Joke Bastards.
Autopsy photographs show that the ligature mark on Jeff's neck is in the middle of his neck and goes straight back. As if someone.
That's pure gold. That's maybe the best joke I've told on my stream ever, right? Was it the was it the FBI in the jail cell, the CIA in the infirmary, or the deep state in the hospital? We'll never know. Next week on Clue. That's actually really good. I'm so much smarter than the entire government combined. Goddamn March of the Joke Bastards with your child molestation and your fucking your hitman type assassination.
Electrical cord.
Fucking joke March of the Joke Bastards.
Whatever it is, it doesn't look like the fabric from a big.
Like we, we're all sitting back here in our fucking living rooms in our fucking American homes, just straight cracking on you as a government, as a deep state, as a liar, as a conspirator, and all the mistakes that you make. How many felonies was? See, I thought Trump was at like 216 felonies, but they were saying yesterday that it's actually 3,500 subpoenas.
So if
fucking joke bastard criminal, fucking March of the criminal joke bastards. You know what I'm saying? They're all raping children and stealing elections and causing insurrections and shit. Fucking March of the joke bastards. Fuck you guys. You're no better than Fox or Rupert Murdoch.
it seems clear just from the photographs of his autopsy that he was strangled with, say, a cord, wouldn't you test that cord for his DNA?
Yeah, nobody seems to know where that is. Also, the way they said he was hanging, and again, he had to be there for at least 2 hours. When you die, the blood in your body settles to gravity takes the blood down to the lowest parts of your body, and they become blotchy from
you shit yourself.
Blood pooling under the skin. So the back of his legs and his buttocks should have what's called lividity. They should have this blotchiness, like bruising look on the back of his legs and his buttocks. Autopsy photographs show that his legs are clear. So he couldn't have been hanging that way for more than, for 2+ hours. He'd have blood pooling in his legs. That's not the case.
So did the report explain the discrepancies from the autopsy? That bones in his neck were broken that are not seen in hangings, but are seen in strangulations.
Those broken bones are not, they're seen in strangulations, but because he had 3 bones, it's also from karate chop to the neck will break bones like that. And that seems to be what I've spoken to military people, a preferred way of killing people is you karate chop them in the neck really hard, you collapse their windpipe, and that disorients them and incapacitates them, and then usually they just break their neck, or you can strangle them. So the breaks in his neck are more consistent with a karate chop than a soft, what's called a soft hanging.
That I believe.
You know, when you tie something around your neck and you sit down.
Yeah, I doubt there was any hanging or anything like that. Like, the problem with the hanging is you could maybe get some oxygen back to your brain, and unless you snap a neck, maybe the guy comes back in the infirmary, and then your whole Breaking Bad, the world's most expensive goddamn alibi falls apart. You know? I know they cut this straight from Breaking Bad. It's the world's most expensive alibi, Jeffrey Epstein. And you can see that Vince Gilligan could see it coming, kind of. He couldn't have ever have forecast this. But you could tell Vince Gilligan was kind of hedging the bets a little bit with this kind of thing, talking about how criminals and conspiracies work, because a lot of the government's kind of getting into that now. And one of the things that's kind of funny is like he made this joke about how they whacked like all 27 dudes that were like implicit in the fucking the El Pollo, or sorry, the Chicken Brothers, what is it, El Pollos, Los Pollos Hermanos guy finally dies. Gus Fring finally dies, and they're like and so afterwards they have like 27 dudes who worked for Gus Fring that are now working for Jesse and Heisenberg, and are trying to keep the criminal empire going because nobody wants to lose their meth empire. There's lots of money to be made, you know? And so they fund what is what is Walter White's, as Walter White puts it, the world's most expensive alibi, which is paying like $270,000 to each victim's family for the rest of their lives to sign an NDA to not talk about how their beloved one, their loved one got murdered in a prison, you know. And now he's like, we have no money left after funding the world's most expensive alibi. And that's what I think Jeffrey ended up being, is the world's most expensive alibi. He was the fall guy for all the chomos in our government. Oh God.
From something soft, like, unfortunately Robin Williams or Andre, Bourdain, was it?
By the way, like last time I looked, it was like 2022. There was like 330 members of the Republican Congress who had faced literal fucking sex charges in the last 5 years. And it was like 117 Democrat or something like that. Apparently the Congress has racked up quite a high statistic of sex crimes. Which I didn't know until I saw that, Jesus Christ.
As opposed to
like convicted sex crimes that we know about, They buy underage hookers, and they sometimes rape people. The rapist happens pretty much everywhere, and doesn't really stop at the Congress, And they they have sex scandals. Sometimes they butt fuck each other in the congressional in the Congress meeting hall or whatever, in the main Congress hall. Did you guys hear about that one? The 2 dudes butt fucking who they were like senators, and they were butt fucking in this gay cowboy getup in the fucking congressional hall, or whatever you call that, the Congress, essentially the big room where all the Congress meets. They fucked in that room as some kind of weird fantasy, and they got caught and fired. It was just kind of funny. Not that that's bad. It's just sort of funny. It's just like all the stuff that's been happening lately. We think of this as our government. We think of this as our hollowed halls, our government, our the higher power, But then you hear these stories about how they're butt fucking each other up there in the Congress hall. Like for real, got caught on camera doing it,
But that wasn't what happened.
He seems fairly concerned about all this. I think he cares a lot.
So Dr. Michael Baden, who participated, was present at the autopsy.
Oh no.
has participated
Oh,
in
move.
over 1,000 autopsies of prison deaths.
I have never seen 3 cases like this. Suicide.
What is that?
Over 1,000
What is
jail
that?
suicides in the New York City State Prison for 40, 50 years. No one had 3 crimes.
Fairly
What is
firm conclusion is
that?
that this was not a suicide. Is that correct?
Yes. He was holding off on that determination pending
What is
determination
that?
of how the body was found, which he finally, now that they say the way the body was found, it only shows that it was not that way. It shows it was not that way. It further convinced Dr. Bodden that this was not a hanging.
So here's what we wind up with at the end of all this. We wind up with a high-profile inmate in the most secure federal facility in the country's largest city who was somehow murdered, clearly with the knowledge of the Justice Department, and the Attorney General of the United States lies about it, which he did, and there's no reason to do that except to cover up the crime. So what does that tell us about this?
Oh, it's a scary thought that you could be killed in prison by the government. Right? Because again, my life would have been a lot easier if he committed suicide. I could have put it away. But
It's true.
it's obvious at this point in time that it was not a suicide. And so it means somebody killed him. So who killed him and why?
Right. So in talking to all the people around him or people who were connected with him in one way or another in the final weeks of his life, have you detected a fear in those people in talking about this?
No, not really. I don't think they're fearful of anything. I was the one getting the death threats, not them. I don't think they did.
Why were you getting death threats?
Well, when Jeff died, people tried to link me to his activities in some way, shape, or form. Again, I had not seen Jeff for 7 years prior to his
Warp
death. We were in
drive
communication,
active.
we spoke, we emailed, but we lived 2 different lives. So I didn't know his inner circle, and he didn't know mine. But people tried to link me to his activities, and I was in contact with the FBI and the New York Police Department about the death threats. And I had at times when I went to the autopsy, I had armed guards with me to protect myself
From whom?
from whoever killed Jeff.
But anyone who could murder someone in a federal detention facility obviously has a lot of power.
Yeah, well, I was trying to protect myself as best as I could.
Do you fear for, I notice you're not appearing on camera. You've asked not to appear on camera.
Yeah,
I
because I don't want to be
noticed-
recognized.
you
I
noticed
travel a
this?
lot, and there's no
Yeah,
need
I
for-
noticed it
This
too.
is not about me. This is about Jeff's death.
Did you have any inkling at all that your brother was involved in anything that might get him killed by a government?
No, no.
By
I
a
wasn't
government.
involved with his day-to-day life, and his troubles he had with the charges with the girls was from the early 2006 is when he first got into trouble, and he spent time in jail for that.
Well, that's a question that's occurred to me. I mean, he went through all this, whatever you think of it, and then he was charged again for the same things, effectively.
Right. I mean, from what I understand, that was going. He had a non-prosecution agreement with the federal government on that when he made his plea deal. So he believed he was safe from further prosecution. And then he flew home from Paris in July, and they arrested him on the same charges. And I believe his defense was going to be, well, hey, I have a non-prosecution agreement with the federal government. And supposedly they say, well, that was like...
You're a
some
child
people-
molester. They don't
some
deal
area.
with
Well,
terrorists.
As far as I know, we have one...
They don't care
federal
about you. They'll violate your rights. They don't care about that.
That was the entire country.
Has it occurred that maybe the point of rearresting him on the same charges was to get him into a facility?
Is he supposed to be treated humanely?
I've shied away from speculating about all of this. I try to stick with the facts, but that's a possibility.
Do you think other governments might have been involved in this, not just the U.S. government?
Oh my
On
God!
the surface, say no. I don't see why. I mean, again, I don't know what he was doing day to day, so again, that's speculation, which I don't want to do. But I don't think so. On the surface, I don't see why.
What information are you still seeking about his death?
Well, who were the prisoners on that ward that night? How long were they there for? Now, if somebody was on that ward for, you know, a long time, like his roommate, then, you know, obviously they weren't planted there, you know, 2 years ago to kill Jeff then. So who was transferred onto that ward in the week or two before he was killed? And where are they now? Where were they transferred to? Were these real prisoners, or was it a plant?
Have you asked the Inspector General at the Department of Justice?
We asked all these questions, yes, way back when. And we get no answer. Yeah, after a thorough investigation, we've determined it was a suicide.
But no one's given you any details.
After a careful investigation, we've determined it was a suicide.
What's-
That's what I was getting from them. I'm doing to you what they were doing to me.
What's your next move?
Well, I'm still trying to find the information. I have, you know, FOIAs out to try to get the medical reports, try to get the 911 call, and just to get people thinking about this. People shouldn't, like you said, people shouldn't be complacent with the fact that somebody was killed in a federal prison under federal protection.
Yeah, and officials at the very highest levels are lying about it.
Yeah, and people should be aware of that. Whether we ever figure out exactly what happened, I don't know, but I don't want people to think he committed suicide, because that's not the case.
Mark Epstein, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Please, please, please. Please! Please, I need this so bad. Please, please, please. Please, please, please. Oh my god, you can see the barrier just working in real time. It's just insane. Come on, man. Please. Oh my god. Oh, wait, wait, wait. Huh. I think I got it once. Oh, I did. No, I got it once. I got it once there, but it's not enough. It's not enough purchase. I need to just keep going. Oh my god, why do you live here? Thank god he's AFK. I want the name. I wonder if he has loot and if he's building. Gotta get up the cliff. It's so annoying. I did not know he was here. Oh my god. Please. Oh, I hate you so much. You and your fucking cliffs. Well, banging him will be fairly easy, especially if he's AFK for like 25 minutes here. Come on, man. Let me up this, please. Please let me up this. Please, please, please. Please let me up it. Oh, god damn it. I hate you. You and your... This would never happen in real life. Oh, my god. Alright, fine. I'll go all the way to my fucking base. Just to get up the cliff. Just to get there before as he walks inside. Thanks. You know? Please? Come on, please. No, you won't let me do this corner, will you? Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. Oh. 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 Good, good. Okay. How will I do this? I will open full charged Crossy. Close pistol. Drop in on him. And then run down the beach. If I have fuel, I would take the tugboat away. I would drive away in the tugboat. Yeah, we gotta do this the way where he doesn't hear it. Because he could hear me up here. Definitely. Okay. Gotta get to where I can see his fucking base and make sure I don't go too far, too close. Yep, okay. Come on, AFK kill. I want an AFK kill. Let's get it. Maybe he's got building mats on him for some reason. I kind of doubt it, but... Alright, here we go. Gotta gank this guy. It's just too juicy not to. I don't care if I lose all this. It's fine. I'm gonna run out this way when I leave, so he doesn't know where I live. Gotta remember. Yep, there he is. Okay. Don't want to give it away. He's building a How do you have wall? Well, you didn't get robbed yesterday like me. I would have a wall if I wasn't robbed. Tell me you're standing on top of this building still. Yep. Alright. Watch me slowly make this count. I should open pistol just to make sure I kill him if he sees or hears me. Fuck. What? Got one. Gotta make the exit, but I don't know how. Brutus. I mean... Psycho with a pump shotgun. Psycho with a pump shotgun. I don't know how I got a bite. I should not have gotten a bite. I think the one on the roof. Oh God, I don't want to die. Get the bandages going. So tense. I can't believe there was 2 of them. He moved right as I got there. I was like, see, the barrier caused him to move. Right as I got there, he's running inside, and I got it right as he moved. Yeah, I'm aware. I'm going. I didn't get anything off him, but hey, 500 stone is 500 stone. It's not a good day until you get good PvP like that. Yeah! Fucking frontal fucking roof assault, bitch. Killed me 2 scarecrows and 2 humans. Oh yeah! How about them apples? 1v2. I finally caught my 1v2 that I've failed the last 5 times I tried to do. Oh yeah. Ah, that wonderful feeling when you run off with the loot, you know they can't catch you. This guy's gonna find my base and fucking raid me. It's fine by me, honestly. I can just build this again tomorrow. You know? I might die outside my base, but whatever. So annoying. Don't die here. Don't die here. Come on. Come on, man. Come on, man. Your fucking stupid cliffs are so annoying. I have hated your cliffs since day 1. I hate them so much. They're fucking so annoying. I hate them so much. Couldn't you be competent? God damn it. Fucking you and your fucking cliffs. Oh, you ruined the moment. Bitch, don't kill my vibe with your fucking terrible design. You build such a beautiful thing and you provide such a beautiful opportunity like what just happened. And then you jade it and poison the well with your bullshit with cliffs. Please stop making noise in this direction. It's so annoying. Oh my god, you're so annoying. They're gonna come right to my base. I need to just stand outside the window and watch them come find my base and then raid me. Come on, man. This stupid ass shit. Your looting system sucks so much dick. He had nice arrows, I guess. I don't know. I mean, frankly, I don't care. How about... Alright, there we go. Please get the jump. You're so annoying. Fucking so annoying. I hate the cliffs. I've always hated them so much. I hate their outpost guards. I hate their fucking cliffs. And I hate their... I don't hate their building, but I still think building is really janky a lot of the time. You can't do a lot of the things you want to do. It's so annoying. The cliffs. Like, look how much time that cost me right there. Just because I couldn't make that 1 inch, I have to go lose 45 seconds of walking. And that's a time loss. That's time sink. That's time theft. Your cliffs don't need to be that nasty. You could, you know... well, mission successful, I guess. I'm gonna turn off the breathing because I can't turn it off. So annoying. Alright, let's take his stone and attempt to fix problems. That was fun. Kind of tense. I came out on top, you know. It was good. That's kind of uncommon for me. Usually something really annoying happens, you know, and I die to some odds that I couldn't even foresee coming, you know. But I managed to successfully get that guy for his entire kit. Whatever.
Warp drive active.
I came at him with a pump shotgun. He was like, what? Fucking scarecrow. Fucking scarecrow bit me somehow, even though it was in the water. Why couldn't he have had like 5k stone? It would have been so nice. It would have been so nice. It would have been so nice. I wonder how much he stands out on his roof like that. What's his name? Brutus. That's right, Brutus and Uberbunk. Okay, Brutus and Uberbunk. All right, works for me. Let's go look at the fucking character info just to see. Trying to view players. We have Brutus. He's legit. Nice. I feel bad. Feral Titan is an awesome guy. Okay. Well, sounds good. Brutus and well, who is the other guy? Uberbunk? Yeah. What's that? It's a picture of Rust. No, that's not Rust. I don't know what that is. But anyways, he's legit. It's good. Very good. What up, Uberbunk or whatever? I don't know if he's legit, but he's not a. He's oh, he's a Russian. They're Russian, and I killed them. I have Russian neighbors, guys. Works for me, you know. Doesn't bother me. What up, neighbor? And then just say a friendly hello. So yeah, sorry, it was kind of aggressive, but I mean, I got a raw deal all goddamn day today. I can't look that bad all day, can I? You know, got to catch one once in a while instead of 2v1s and all this bullshit all day. You know, once in a while I should get something. A broken clock is right twice a day. You know, I might get a kill once a week or something. You know, it's all right. It's good. Okay, so now this fireplace. When he started moving, I was like, fuck, I gotta take my shot with the arrow, and I really didn't want to. I was like, I really don't want to break my silence here. But he got hit, and he was like, wait, what? And then I finished him. I was like, ah, ha, ha, ha. Okay, so... Oh, before I do anything else, though, I gotta take that stone and a hammer and do door jams before problems happen. Not before. And I have to go out and get stone now. I have to go the other direction. Hammer. Where's the hammer? Hammer. I should almost take a train to Outpost, you know? With an axe. It actually might not be the worst plan. Oh, you know, I did not use my kit today, which is really dumb. I don't have enough room. Damn it. Hurry up, you. Oh, no, am I full? I am full. God damn it. I'm always full in all the games I play. It's so annoying. Okay. Well, that was a good PvP engagement. Oh, I didn't get the stone. I keep putting the stone away. It's driving me crazy. Please stop doing that. Please pull the stone out of the fucking TC. Where did that stone go that I just had? Didn't I pull 500 off him? No, this is it. I can't spend this stone. It's like my upkeep. It's 12 hours of upkeep. I can't actually spend it till I get more. God damn it. Well, let's fix the storage issues here. Okay, so I guess I can do this. No, I want to do that. Will you let me do that? No, wait. Actually, well, no. What about that? Would that work? See, damn it. No. See, this won't work. Well, why won't you let me do that? That's dumb that you don't let me do that. Stupid. Why? I want this somewhere where I can use it. Oh. What about, no, I sealed this, huh? Yeah, what about that? Can I do that? Yeah, can I do like that? Yeah. Oh. Ah. I don't know where to put it. I wish these zombies weren't by my base. It's so annoying. I should put a spawn somewhere else so I don't poison the well here at my base and get 12 hours of some breathing zombie in my fucking ears. Can't stand repetitive breathing in my ears. Drives me crazy. Like, I would kill a person if they did that to me. It's like my idea of torture. Like, not kill them, but, you know... you know, like it breaks my brain in a way that would make me have a psychotic episode. Fucking breathing over and over and over and over again for 12 hours. For 12 hours, and it's like, ugh. Right. Yeah. Can we do that? Yeah, let me do that. Yeah, that'll work, right? Yeah, I think that'll work. No, it worked for a second, and then you screwed it up. I don't know. What about... no, I'm going to seal that off. So, I really want this to work like here. Why would you work right there? Yeah, like will you work right there? Yeah. Yeah, like that. There's nothing stopping you. Come on. See, the building. The building bothers me. You see it? They did not get it, like, where they needed to get it at all. It's lazy. Fine. Yeah, I'm gonna seal off that bitch, so I guess the best bet is, like, right in here if I can get it, if you'll let me. Yeah, what about that? Will you let me do that? Yeah. Wait. occurs to me that like all my doors are open. I don't know where I'm gonna place this. I think it's gonna be where yeah, I think that does work actually. And this is where it's most likely to be helpful. So, please, yeah, like that. There we go. Let's take the stuff out of here. Yeah. I mean, that stuff's good, but I want to take, yeah, I want to take these boxes out of here, and I'm going to, too. We'll put one here, and one here. Yeah. And then we can see out the window better. Yeah. It's awesome. Okay. And then we will move these boxes. Loot all. Dump all. Loot all. Dump all. Oh, let's get some sound going. I know it's kind of quiet. Sorry, guys. You're full again. You're always so full. It's like I'm always going back again.
Warp drive
Did you pick
active.
up the... Oh, no. Wait, well, I'll come back to it this way. Okay, so there's that first full box, and then we'll take loot all, and we'll take this wood and this bone, yeah, and then all. Actually, I want the wood. You stop because you're wasting, and you stop because you're wasting.
Docking request accepted.
There we go. Let's listen to the rest of the... Oh, no, that was the interview. Good. Yeah, I kind of want to get off the Jeffrey Epstein thing. It's like, eh. And now we say that we are not interested. Final Fantasy XIV Tokyo Fan Fest 2024 reaction. 4chan's femboy cult interviewing Reiko. Ultima complete review series. Okay, let's do that. This is 6 hours long.
Ultima is a series I wish I could say defined my childhood, but it did not.
No.
For a long time, it remained to me as a series I knew was critically acclaimed and had garnered a large fan base. But for me, it remained as a series I was curious about and read about them on the pages of gaming magazines. Yes, indeed, the ones that were printed on paper. The first one I ever got to play myself was Ultima 8, and while I enjoyed it, it did not light a fire inside me, nor did I understand what all the hype was about after playing it. Then I borrowed Ultima 9 from a friend, and, well, let's just say that did not end well. Years passed, and I finally was able to play all of them. And when I did, I finally understood. It was like a veil had been lifted from before my eyes, and I could see clearly. Ultima is genius. Except when it's not. In this series, I want to share the experience I had and explain what has now made Ultima so special to me, and why the experience of playing them will remain with me for the rest of my life. So, without any further ado, let the journey into the mystical land of Sosaria begin. Oh, and I will spoil the entire game, so spoiler alert. Ultima, or as it's now known, Ultima 1 The First Age of Darkness, is a video game created by the programmer, adventurer, astronaut Richard Garriott during his time at the University of Texas, ensuring that every gamer student of the future would feel envy at this stroke of genius that created a genre-defining video game series. The setting of Ultima can best be described as the wet dream of every early 80s high school nerd. The world of Ultima seems on the surface to be a very basic Tolkien-esque fantasy world. Castles, kings, imprisoned princesses, orcs roaming the lands, and ominous dungeons littering the landscapes. But beyond the surface... a space shuttle? What? Ultima tells the story of the stranger, or the noble one as they're described in the manual, a wandering hero who acts as the avatar of the player as they roam the lands of Sosaria, a once prosperous and pleasant realm that has been thrown into chaos and ruined by an evil wizard Mondain. Mondaine's reign of terror has released hordes of monsters onto the land and opened up dungeons full of dangers, but also riches for the intrepid adventurer who dares venture deep into the dank depths. As long as they remember to buy food before leaving the villages. It is up to the adventurer to finally free Sosaria from this desperate situation, which one might call let me think, an age of darkness. Yeah, that sounds good. What makes this task more than just the run-of-the-mill kill enemies, get loot and experience, go shank a wizard in the guts is Mondaine's secret weapon. The Gem of Immortality. Thus, our hero has a great problem before them. How do you kill someone who's immortal? Why, it's obvious. You get a time machine to go back in time, break his unfinished Gem of Immortality, and shoot him with a blaster rifle until he turns into a pile of ash. I mean, what else could you do? Before starting the game, you get to create your character. There's a certain amount of points you can add to different stats. You can choose your sex, your class, and your species. Each of these can give boosts to specific stats, and I'll be honest, I'm kinda curious about what the heck is above it. A legally distinct hobbit, most likely, but still, I mean, the manual doesn't help that much here. Ultima is, by today's standards, very basic. The overworld is a classic tile-based top-down perspective where you occasionally encounter enemies and travel from town to town using different means of transportation. Villages act as your hubs where you purchase supplies and new, better gear, while castles are your source for quests. You control your little avatar completely with the keyboard, and the controls are quite extensive. Almost every character on your keyboard does something, and they even make complete sense when you think about it. For example, some of the commands are A to attack, B to board a vehicle, C to cast a spell, K to climb, and Z to see your stats. Okay, they mostly make sense. Each castle gives you a unique quest, and completing some of these are mandatory, as you will receive clues and gems needed to activate the time machine that is needed to travel to the past to finish off Mondaine. The quests themselves are fairly basic. The non-mandatory quests require you to travel to a specific signpost on the overworld and then return to get your reward, whereas the, let's call them main quests, send you into the dungeons to kill specific enemies, each being deeper than the previous. The signposts also serve another very important function, as they are the only way to increase the stats of your character. Leveling up with experience instead changes the wares the various stores across the world have for sale. Starting from basic medieval weapons and armor and transportation methods such as horses, and at the later levels to powered armor, flying cars, and the aforementioned space shuttle. Thus, the beginning of the game is often spent wandering around the first continent, gaining gold and experience so you can eventually explore the rest of the world properly. But this subversion of the traditional leveling trope also means quite a bit of your time is spent sailing, or flying, from one signpost to another just to max out your stats, because why wouldn't you? Yeah, it's not the most interesting thing to do. There is also a signpost which gives you a stronger weapon than the last every time you visit it, starting from daggers and such, going one at a time stronger, culminating in weapons like the light sword, a phaser, and finally the ultimate weapon, the blaster rifle. There are numerous dungeons which you can explore in a first-person wireframe view, the layout of which are randomized on each playthrough but always follow a 9x9 grid. It is also completely useless to go to any more dungeons than one, since every required enemy type for the quests can be found in every dungeon, as long as you go deep enough. So to best spend your time, it's recommended to just choose one dungeon to map and explore. The other use of dungeons is gaining more health. In Ultima, health is a resource just like food. You don't gain it passively, and you can't heal yourself in traditional ways like spells. Instead, health points are acquired in two ways, either as a proportional share to the enemies you've slain as you exit a dungeon, or by tithing money to one of the kings. Yes, have my money. I'll take a bag of health, thank you. After maxing out your stats, or at least raising them to as far as your patience can handle, it's the perfect moment to finally tackle the enemy slaying quests. For this, some preparation is good to make the task so much easier. For example, near the dungeon Montor on the first continent, there are two towns, the town of Britain and the town of Pause. One of them sells a spell Ladder Up, and the other Ladder Down. These can be used to effectively skip exploring certain levels of the dungeons when you just want to go further down, or leave the dungeon when you're ready. Each of the required enemies can be found on 2 levels of the dungeons. For example, the gelatinous cube can be found on levels 3 or 4. And, one thing I forgot, it can eat your armor. So while it means you will take much more damage, it's likely the best to unequip your armor while on those levels, or this might happen. The Carrion Creeper, on the other hand, is on levels 5 and 6, the Lich on levels 7 and 8, and the dreaded Balron... Okay, dreaded by those not wearing science fiction armor and futuristic blaster weapon, is found on level 9. After slaying all of these beasts, it's time to return to the kings to get your well-earned rewards. The kings, pleased with your success, each give you one of the time machine gems and break the fourth wall and tell you that it's needed to win the game. Now, as long as you have enough gold and you're rocking your blaster rifle and a suit of powered armor, it's time to go to the local blacksmith to buy yourself a space shuttle. And you do need a lot of gold, 1,500 or 2,000 if you want to be safe. Launching into space, you find a space station orbiting the planet. This is your base of operations from which you start exploring the star map in search of enemies to shoot down. And also the reason why you need all that gold. Each time you dock at the space station, you need to pay a docking fee of 500 gold. And you do need to dock, since this is your only way to change the ship you're using, and also refuel the one you're currently in. You're given 3 choices of ships. The space shuttle in which you arrived in is the first, and it's not suited for long-range space travel, or combat for that matter. The second, a quite bulky-looking ship which does have a good range, but isn't that good at combat. And the third, a somewhat familiar-looking and sleek combat vessel, which I recommend using in your quest to become a space ace. Just be sure to have at least 500 gold when you leave for your final outing in this vessel, since you need the gold to get back into your space shuttle, which is the only ship capable of entering the planet's atmosphere. The space segment is played in 2 views, the front and top views. In the top view, which you enter the space in, you can change the direction and speed of your vessel. Left and right turn your ship clockwise and counterclockwise, and up and down change your velocity. This is an important mechanic to learn well, since you need to be exact when you dock into the space station. Even 1 pixel off and your ship bounces away, damaging your ship by a huge amount. And it's also necessary for the space exploration. In the map view, you see several different symbols. There's empty space, space station, suns, and sectors with enemies. You travel between these sectors by first changing the velocity and direction of your vessel in the top view, then going into the front view and initiating a hyperspace jump. You'll move to the sector which is adjacent to the sector you're currently in the direction where your ship was moving in the top view. So to move up, your ship must be moving up, and so on. Mastering these controls, you're able to explore space and destroy 20 or so vessels that are definitely not familiar looking in any way, shape or form, until you become a space ace, which is required to rescue a princess. After all, a fine lady would not go out with any random guy who can't properly use their space shuttle. Landing back in Caesarea, not much more remains. You go to a castle, brutally murder a jester taunting you about how they have the key, murder some guards, free the princess, murder some more guards, and flee. She's then so grateful that she gives you some pocket money and reveals the location of her time machine, which you find just laying around in the woods. Then you enter the mysterious vessel, insert the gems, travel back in time, and face your greatest enemy, the evil wizard Mondane. Try as he might, as long as you've spent some 20 minutes maxing out your stats and getting the best gear, he stands no chance against you, which, unfortunately, he also seems to realize, and turns into a bat and runs around the map, forcing you to chase him. For a long, long, long time. Worst of all, if you're like me and forget to actually destroy the Gem of Immortality, he keeps resurrecting until you do. Albeit, thankfully, not with max health. When the chase is over and you've brutally slain your foe, you've finally won and are given a congratulatory message explaining how you've saved Caesarea, and the denizens of the world are eternally grateful for your feat of heroism. While the game doesn't seem that amazing mechanically, what it is a fantastic relic of computer RPGs. This is where many of the CRPG tropes began, and this game and the later games in the series inspired many games and franchises, and as such, Ultima is an important part of gaming history. There are barely any characters to interact with, basically just the kings, the merchants, and, well, that's about it. There's no real talking system either, and the game's length consists mostly of dungeon crawling. The story as well is mostly told in the manual, and the rest you have to put together yourself from the minuscule amount of text that actually fit on the disc. Some hints and lore are supposed to be given by the tavern keepers in town, but while recording footage for this video, all I managed to do was get drunk and be seduced by a lady in the tavern who took hundreds of gold each time that happened. So, unfortunately, I'm unable to show those hints, but they exist, at least in the Ultima transcript. But even so, the world built behind the scenes is full of life and lore, even if very little of it was capable of being in the game due to technical limitations. So for anyone who might be interested in Ultima, reading the manual thoroughly is a must. There's not much to say about the graphics. The footage is from the remake version that came out several years after the original Apple II version, so there's actually multiple colors this time. And you do have your eyes so you can make your own mind, unless you've been listening to this, in which case, yeah, the graphics are traditional, very, very basic tile-based pixel art. The sound, on the other hand, well, technically even the game doesn't claim there is sound, but instead calls it quite unceremoniously noise. On the PC version, it's beeps and boops and such generated by a PC speaker, so definitely not something to write home about. As the first game in the series, it's
looks like
easy
Dwarf
to
Fortress.
dismiss this as an ancient relic, a very simple RPG with barely any features, which, admittedly, I do understand. But as an important piece of gaming history, it's more than worth it to experience a game that acted as a template to a genre that has evolved into something great with so much variety. So, thank you so much for watching, and until next time when I tackle my journey through Ultima 2. So, until then, Fintrovert, signing out.
I like this guy. He's sunny and innocent.
Previously in Ultima 1, the final showdown with the evil wizard Mundane. After saving Sosaria from the wizard Mundane, peace and prosperity have returned to the land.
The asteroid is
Unfortunately,
depleted.
this would not last for long. Ultima 2 begins as, unbeknownst to all, Mundane had a protege, the sorceress Minax, who is somewhat annoyed at our hero who just happened to turn her mentor into a pile of smoldering ash. In her rage, she decided to take revenge on Sosaria, and also the home of the stranger who struck down Mundane, Earth. Researching magic to twist dimensions and time, Minax learned how to open rifts in time and space, gateways through which creatures and people can travel through. Using her powers to affect time to manipulate the world, twisting the peaceful and wise civilizations into those intolerant and prone to war, she manipulates the course of history, which culminates in the nuclear destruction of almost the entire population of Earth. And here, our hero enters the story, with one purpose in mind: to use Minax's time gates and prevent this tragedy from happening. The world of Ultima 2 consists of 5 different maps in different time periods, modeled on Earth in one shape or another, with one exception. That exception is the time of legends, an era described as time before time, peopled by creatures of myth and lore, the root of all that governs what is to come. This is where Minax is believed to be, spreading her seeds of evil through all time. Then there is the prehistoric time, millions of years in the past before the Earth had formed into the shape we all recognize it as. The dawn of civilization, where the Earth is now in a recognizable form and ancient civilizations are thriving. The year 1990. The near future of the release date of the game, 1982, where Earth is still mostly as we know it, but with the monsters of legend roaming the lands. Nationalistic countries spying on each other with distrust, preparing for another war. And the aftermath, the future which Minax's manipulations has wrought. Much of Earth has been devastated by nuclear fire, and very few beings still survive. A warning for what is to be our fate if Minax is not stopped. The character creation is very similar to Ultima. You choose your attributes with a minimum of 10 points allocated to each attribute. You choose your species, class, and sex. Again, all of these give some bonuses to the attributes, and choosing between the 2 magic classes locks you out of some available spells. As an update to the character attribute system from the previous game, now attributes also govern which pieces of gear you can and cannot equip. After creating your character, you're greeted by a familiar-looking top-down perspective and an unfamiliar land. All around you is wilderness. A dead and desolate wasteland, only known as...
Come on, man.
Canada. From here, your journey begins, as you explore the lands for settlements and clues for what you're actually meant to do. Compared to Ultima, Ultima 2 is more advanced on many fronts. For example, now a large portion of the game is spent going from one settlement to another talking to people. This feature, while commonplace now, was a pretty big deal in 1982. Granted, each character in the world only has one thing to say, with a few exceptions. But going around the world, talking to each of these people to find the clues they have for you is an important part of the game, since without prior knowledge or these clues, it's practically impossible to accidentally win the game. Many other characters have fluff text, which has no real meaning to the quest you're on, or some people are even deliberately giving you false information. But it is nice to see the seeds of in-game world building grow. After all, being able to talk to people is a stepping stone to having actual options on what to talk about.
The
This
asteroid
also
is
gives you a
depleted.
reason to travel to all of the time periods, find all the settlements and talk to all the people in them. Something that was severely lacking in the first Ultima, a reason to explore the world. The Tavern Keepers also return to give you hints about the game mechanics in exchange for tips. This time they're not completely random, and while they may seem cryptic, which admittedly they are also extremely important for your ability to complete the game, as they are clues about where to get certain items and what their use is. Which brings us to another advancement from Ultima, an inventory system that contains more than just your weapons and armor. Instead, this time some enemies drop loot items which have differing uses. This new system, while an advancement, is also one of the parts that can cause a lot of grey hairs to the player. Not only do you need specific random drops from specific enemies, there's also an enemy type that can steal items from you. For example, let's take the item called Blue Tassels. They are required to board a sailboat. Not only can it take a while for you to farm a set of blue tassels, it can take another long while for a boat to spawn. And to make it even worse, the thieves in the world can steal the blue tassels from you, making you unable to board your sailboat again until you get another set of tassels. And no, killing the thief will not give you your tassels back. So the save everywhere function is a very good tool for any player. This is mostly a problem at the very beginning of the game though, because when you do get a boat you are practically invincible while you're in it. You can sail around the world, shooting all of the enemies with the cannons of the ship, making farming golden items much faster than it's on foot. And the best of all, on a ship you don't spend any food as you move. Exploring the world is somewhat more complicated than it was in Ultima. Most of it is because you need to figure out how to navigate the time gates that are spread around the world. It can be confusing at first, but the game does come with a map that makes the process of understanding the time gates a little bit easier. The map also starts another mainstay of the Ultima games, the usage of a runic alphabet system. Learning this will be very useful for the later games. While searching the settlements, you're likely to encounter someone telling you to go to Hotel California, and perhaps someone who may tell you to offer the hotel clerk gold. These clues are directing you towards the new leveling up system. In the first Ultima, you gained better attributes by sailing from one magical signpost to another, interacting with them until your stats were maxed, or you got too bored to continue. In Ultima 2, however, it's no longer quite as simple. Instead, you go to the Hotel California in San Antonio, Texas, chuck the clerk a bag of gold, and either get a hearty "thank you" or "alakazam." If it's the first, well, congratulations, you've just lost your money. If it's the latter, the clerk has just raised one of your attributes by 4 points. This makes leveling up your character expensive and very random. However, you can make it not random by installing what is called the Ultima 2 upgrade. The upgrade allows you to choose which stat to raise and removes the random chance of the leveling up not happening at all. I'm partially using the patch as well while recording because this is what the game looks like without it. CGA does have its merits, but these days I prefer my games not to cause me a headache, so the EGA tileset from the upgrade patch is quite nice for me. If you do want the authentic experience, the upgrade allows you to not have the leveling up system change, in which case it will work the same way as it worked in the original version. Healing, on the other hand, is basically the same as it was in Ultima. You go to Lord British's castle, located in the UK, pay him a tribute, and receive health in return. As you're exploring, you may notice there are plenty of places you seem unable to explore. Yes, you have plenty of skull keys, but you still cannot open any of the doors. Well, of course not. What did you think? Skull keys are obviously used to fly airplanes. That's silly, people. Thinking skull keys are used to open doors. You need completely different kinds of keys for that. To finish your exploring and reach the parts you've been unable to reach so far, it's time to choose a town. Any town, really. And then go on a murderous rampage, slaughtering countless guards to satisfy your need for keys. While going through the settlements, you may also find several people talking about someone called Father Antos, and it seems like they really want you to find him and get his blessing. This frequency of hints is an indicator that this is somehow related to the main quest of the game. Another way to find out more about this quest is to consult the oracles found in several towns. These oracles offer valuable information for a hefty price. 4,500 gold to be exact, or 0 if you just happen to have 900 gold and save before going to the oracle, paying the oracle and writing all of the clues down and then reloading the game. But it's not like someone would do a thing like that, but it's theoretically possible. During your quest, you will again venture into space. Unfortunately, unlike in the first Ultima, you can't just go to the nearest blacksmith to purchase a space shuttle. Instead, the only working space shuttles are now fiercely guarded by the KGB. And to use the shuttle, you'll need some trilithium as well. If you've been farming enough gold to buy better gear and level yourself up, you'll likely already have some. But there is another way, which is to explore the numerous dungeons all over the world. In Ultima 2, the dungeons have been in some ways improved from the previous game, but they're also more dangerous and ultimately kinda pointless. There are now two types of dungeons, traditional dungeons and towers. The main purpose of these is to get to the final level where you can find stashes of trilithium. Problem here is that while the dungeons are slightly more appealing to the eye, they're also dark, which means you'll need single-use torches you also get as enemy drops to explore them. The dungeons are also bigger in every imaginable way. The floors are larger and there are more of them, but at least they are no longer randomly generated, so mapping them once will save you a lot of time if you're doing multiple playthroughs. There is also a new feature where the dungeons have traps in them that are automatically disarmed by using tools. Without these tools, the traps trigger and you instantly die. And again, since you cannot buy these tools, they are only gained from defeating enemies, meaning that while farming for equipment you need in order to explore the dungeons, you're most likely getting all the money you need and the items you need. So for the marginal benefit of having guaranteed trilithium at the end versus just going around the overworld farming every imaginable object, well, it's up to you to decide whether entering the dungeons is worth your time. Stealing a shuttle, you're finally able to reach space, assuming you're wearing powered armor, because if not, you will die. Or in my case, the game will glitch out and just put me back on the ground. Gone is the top view and the combat. Instead, you navigate space using Xeno, Yaku, and Zero coordinates. Once again, the manual comes in handy, the map of the solar system marking coordinates of several planets. Landing on the planets, however, is quite risky. You have no control over the craft as you're orbiting it, and you need to land on grassland. Otherwise, the ship will explode and you'll have to start your exploring again. Some of the planets have settlements, where you're given some clues you've likely already seen, and you find, let's say, interesting people. None of these are what you're looking for, though, as Father Antos is nowhere to be found in the known universe. Instead, he's on an uncharted planet you only find out about in the prehistoric times. Traveling there, failing to land several times, causing you to shout at the screen and take a short breather, you find Father Antos, who gives you his blessing. To me, it's a bit of a shame that the space segment has been toned down so much. It is still visually interesting for the time, but feels like in the shape it is now, it could have been dropped in favor of areas unreachable by most means. And instead of a space shuttle, you would steal an aircraft that can travel to these places. Back on Earth comes one of the most cryptic parts of the game, which the game does hint at, but only partially. Yes, the Oracle's riddle directs you towards an old man who will have a clue for you, and it's literally a person behind a locked door who tells you they are an old man and are below text that says a tree. What the game does not tell you, however, is that you need to shove at least 500 gold into his palms, and then he'll give you the ring, but only after you've received the blessing of Father Antos on Planet X. If you give him the wrong amount or you don't have the blessing, he will still happily accept the money, but you will gain absolutely nothing in return. In San Antonio, you can also receive a unique weapon, for which there are no real clues in the game as far as I know. To receive it, you need to break into the prison, murder a guard, enter a specific cell where prison tells you they have the quick blade, and once more you need to have the impulse to give them 500 gold, which will give you the sword in return. Of course, murdering a guard will cause every other guard in town to come after you like a ton of bricks, so it's up to you again to decide whether this is worth it. After receiving the ring, whenever you feel up to the task, it's time to face the greatest challenge so far, the Time of Legend. Even the entrance to the age seems dangerous. Behind the mountains, there are already hordes of powerful enemies waiting for you, just waiting for you to get close so they can cast their spells over the mountains, as you slowly try to push your way through. After a long and arduous battle, you're able to explore the rest of the ancient continent. Here is also the perfect time to do some final farming if you feel like it. If you get a ship to spawn, it's actually quite easy, albeit boring, to sail between the continent's eastern and western shores, just waiting for enemies to spawn and then mowing them down with the ship's cannons. When you feel like you've farmed enough, you grip your ring and brave the castle of the evil sorceress Minax. Without the ring, the force fields in the fortress would vaporize you. Pushing yourself through the hordes of enemies, you finally face her, Minax, in her chamber, taunting you. But you know you can defeat her. This is what the entire quest has been about. You get near, strike her with all your might, and she teleports away. It's clear that Minax has definitely learned something from Mundane, making you run around her fortress so you can kill her, as she teleports between two chambers each time you do damage to her, forcing you to try and avoid her deadly minions with the use of strange coins that stop time for a few moves. Finally, you manage to strike the final blow and time immediately starts to fix itself. Gone is the nuclear devastation. The tide of history returns to its intended path, and the world is as if nothing had been wrong in the first place. Even though people may not know about your heroic deeds that have been erased from the course of history, you can rest assured that it's your heroism that has ensured that the world would not face total annihilation. Ultima 2 in many ways is an improvement over Ultima. The world map remains in function, mostly unchanged, but now there are multiple variations to reflect the time-traveling aspect of the game. The dungeons, while still not pretty, are less visually jarring than they used to be. And there are multiple new mechanics added for traps, stealing, and item usage for several different purposes. The talking system also is a massive update over the first game, with there now being an actual story in the game, and instead of just going into a dungeon to kill enemies, there is now an incentive to explore the world and find clues to figure out what your quest is. Here we are really starting to see the proper template of computer RPGs, and how the genre has evolved from these very humble beginnings, and a sign of where the series would be moving towards, slowly morphing the focus from just killing monsters to trying to decipher the world and learn all of its intricacies, to find out how to complete your quest and finish the game. Admittedly, in Ultima 2, it's still relatively raw, again partially due to technical limitations. It's difficult to have proper clues when the NPCs in the game have one short line of text available for their dialogue options. This does make actually figuring out what to do a bit more difficult than it could be, and the lack of some vital clues in the game do make winning the game a little bit more about chance than I feel like it should be. Still, Ultima 2 is the first in the series that I'd really say I enjoyed. The first one was a nice relic of gaming history, sure, but Ultima 2 is already more enjoyable as a game. Sure, it requires being able to put yourself into a proper retro mood, as it's far more raw than many other games. But if you manage to do that, the game can actually be quite enjoyable. Well, that is it for this time, and until next time when I tackle Ultima 3. Thank you all for watching, and Fintrovert, signing out.
I like watching videos about these games a lot more than playing them.
For several
request
decades,
accepted.
Cesaria has lived a peaceful and prosperous existence. Across the land, praises are sung for the stranger, whose actions are responsible for the seemingly unending state of peace in the land. But another evil is about to rise from the dark depths of the underworld. Comets begin to fall from the skies. The ground itself starts to rumble, until one day in a fiery birth of molten lava, an island rises up from the ocean. The heat of this island is great, and none could approach it. But rumors of a castle on this island spread throughout the sailors. Orcs that had been absent for decades return, pounding on their war drums, attacking settlements and caravans. Pirates once again rule the seas, seizing all maritime commerce. Rumors are told of the great earth serpent having awoken from its slumber, and a mysterious name is whispered with fear: Exodus. Thus, with so many calamities and ill omens, Cesarians began to believe that the end of the world is nigh. Ultima 3 Exodus was released in 1983, 1 year after Ultima 2, with numerous improvements over the previous game. Instead of controlling a single character, you can now form a party of up to 4 characters. While the manual tells you that you can recruit new characters from the world, this seems to be untrue. There have been some changes to the character creation, but one thing remains the same. You need the manual to understand the rules and options. Since the game itself does not give you a list of classes or races you can choose from, and there are many more options now. You again name your character, choose your sex from male, female or other, and choose their race from a human, elf, dwarf, bobbit or fuzzy. The sex of the characters seems to have no effect on character attributes, whereas the races have a wildly differing attribute limits. For example, humans are the jack-of-all-trades selection, and all of their attributes cap at 75 points, whereas dwarves can become stronger but lack in intelligence. Instead of being limited to the 4 base classes of fighter, cleric, wizard and thief, there are now 11 classes, each of which has their own characteristics. For example, wizards can only wield daggers, wear cloth armor and use sorcery, but one of their multi-class counterparts, the Lark, can wield all weapons, only wear cloth armor and cast sorcery, but only with half the intelligence points a wizard can. This adds a certain level of strategy for creating your party. You can still choose to use only the base classes, which are the strongest in their specific fields of expertise, but are also severely limited in every other. Or you can use more multi-class options to have more characters wield the benefits of some categories while losing some strengths in another. Still, before choosing a magic wielding class, it's a good idea to browse through the spellbooks that come with the game. Clerics and wizards have their own spellbooks, and these are important to understanding the spellcasting system of the game. The spellbooks give an explanation of each spell written in a style fitting an in-universe spellbook. They also show you the button required to activate the spell in the spellcasting prompt. The player no longer has to go into store to buy spells, but instead all spells are technically available from the very beginning. This means that spell use is not limited by the amount you can afford to buy, but instead by the amount of magic points the spell-using character has. These points regenerate over time and do not need to be replenished by the use of potions or such. After adding characters into your character registry, you can form a party. Forming a party is mildly clunky but functional enough. If you don't remember which character is which, you first need to check the character registry for the number of the character, return to the party menu, view that character, then remember all the numbers of the characters you want to use, go to the form party menu and insert the desired numbers there. Of course, at the start it's most likely you'll only have characters 1 through 4, and this ends up being an issue only if you create more characters and want to change them mid-campaign. After forming your party, you once again enter Cesaria, where it is up to the hero and their party to find out what is plaguing the land and how to stop it. The first step in this quest is to equip items to your characters. This is a great introduction to one of the improvements in the game, but also to its limitations. Each of your characters has their own inventory and equipment. There is no unified pool of gear, food, or gold. What there are, though, are buttons to pull the gold to one character and to transfer equipment and food from one character to another. Having a party with different strengths on each character also means that now, when you initiate almost any action, the game first asks you which character you wish to use. This, while understandable, does also get a bit tedious. For example, let's take the equipping of characters. First, you need to check what gear your character has. This is done by checking the stats of the character and scrolling down to their inventory, which, instead of opening up a new screen as in the previous games, now shows up in the text parsing portion of the screen at the bottom right. This, I feel like, is one of the more negative changes in the game. Then you have to press the ready weapon button, choose the character, choose the gear item, rinse and repeat to all the characters. While this system is in many ways a humongous improvement, in the sense that now the classes feel more meaningful due to their different strengths, and how the game allows you to take full advantage of these strengths whenever you feel you need them, the implementation has been done in a functional but ultimately not the most user-friendly way. Your journey will once again take you to several different settlements in search for clues and equipment. To help the player do so, the game comes with a map of the world where no settlements or points of interest are marked on the map itself, but many of them are named on the sides of the maps in the runic alphabet system first introduced in Ultima 2. Traversal itself is very similar to the earlier games, with the tiled overworld and town maps being presented in a top-down perspective. There is one change though, which is the introduction of a line of sight system, where solid objects such as mountains, tall trees, and walls block the player's view. The talking system is mostly the same as it was in Ultima 2, except now the characters can have longer strings of dialogue. This is very useful as the increased length means that some of the clues are much less vague this time around. The world is again full of various characters, many of which have nothing important to say, but their existence still makes the world seem more alive than it would feel without them. Tavern Keepers and the Oracle also return, and their function remains in essence the same as in Ultima 2. For a price, Tavern Keepers reveal clues on important topics you should keep an eye on during your travels, while also giving some information on new gameplay mechanics. The Oracle, on the other hand, returns with another expensive poem, which acts as a kind of a mini walkthrough. Each pair of lines of the poem can be seen as a kind of quest that the player can use to guide them through the main story of the game. During your adventures, you're also going to be doing a lot of fighting. This is one of the biggest changes in the game, as now you have a party instead of just one character. The fighting is no longer just pressing A to attack, and instead, each encounter with an enemy puts your party into a separate combat screen. These combat screens are static arenas in which your party and the enemy party move with alternating turns. Ranged weapons can be used more effectively than in the previous games, and combat spells are no longer exclusive to dungeons and can be used in any battle. This combat style is reminiscent of tactics-style games, instead of the more menu-based combat systems that became popular in many of the later computer role-playing games. One more negative aspect of the new combat system has to do with the control scheme. You use the arrow keys to move your characters and to aim your attacks. Due to one feature, this puts you at a slight disadvantage, as the enemies can move and attack diagonally, whereas the player cannot. Experience from battles is not equally shared between the party, but instead is gained individually by the character that strikes the finishing blow to an enemy. This is admittedly a somewhat bothersome design choice, since to keep your party at somewhat equal levels, the player must do quite a bit of extra strategizing during battles to properly share the experience. Defeated enemies drop chests that can be trapped, and the character that opens them needs to do a trap disarm roll. Some classes are better at this than others. In the chests can also be new gear, which you can use for yourself or sell at various stores for some extra gold. Leveling up is also finally meaningful, as unlike in the previous games where leveling up did practically nothing except change the types of enemies seen and gear found in stores. This time, levels also affect the maximum hit points of the characters. Hit points are no longer bought from Lord British, but this time he bestows the party members an increase to their maximum health pool if they have enough experience points. As a replacement to the old healing system, party members slowly regenerate health. There are also healers who will restore the health of the party members for a price, as well as spells that do the same. Another new addition is the character status system, represented by a letter in the party view. The characters can now be in good condition, poisoned, dead, or turned to ashes. Poison, as you may expect, slowly causes damage over time until it's cured. Dead and ashes statuses prevent the character from acting, and only very high-level spells or expensive treatments are capable of bringing a character back from these status effects. Continuing your adventures, there are several places you are unable to access. To reach some of these places, the player needs to once more gain access to a ship. To get one, you need to wait for the pirates to attack you, defeat them in battle, and repurpose their old ship for your own purposes. The ships are no longer the super vehicle they used to be. The first large change is the addition of a wind direction system. Now your ship can sail in every direction except the direction from which the wind is blowing from. And in calm winds, the ship is completely unable to move. As such, sailing is now more time-consuming. The cannons of the ship as well are still useful, but not as much as before. They cannot be used to grind anymore, as firing upon an enemy disintegrates them, giving you no experience or loot. Another way to reach some otherwise unreachable places are the moon gates, similar to the time travel gates in Ultima 2, except these only move you through space. Each gate appears at a specific phase of the first moon and takes you to a gate designated by the phase of the second moon. Unlike the map in Ultima 2, there is no guide to these gates in documentation, so the player needs to deduce themselves which gate is which. Now, with more access to the locations across the world, you're likely to collect clues about things called marks. Lord British as well will refuse to raise your maximum HP after a certain point until you present to him a Mark of Kings. These marks are a new mechanic where acquiring a mark to a character will give them special powers related to the mark. For example, the Mark of Kings allows the character to raise their maximum health, the Mark of Fire prevents lava from damaging the character, and the Mark of Force allows a character to pass through force fields. There is also a Mark of the Serpent, which is required to pass the giant snake protecting the island, from whence all the evil plaguing Sosaria emanates from. And to acquire these marks, the party must venture into the dungeons. The first thing you see is once again darkness, and to explore the dungeons you need either spells to create light or torches. Torches are no longer random drops from enemies but can be purchased from a special shop called the Guild. The Guild sells other useful tools to the intrepid adventurer as well. In addition to torches, you can purchase keys to unlock doors, powder to stop times, and gems that show you a bird's-eye view of the location you're currently in, thus meaning you no longer have to murder innocent civilians to gain items you need to win the game. After stocking with supplies and lighting the torch, you can see
You
some
no longer have to
changes
be a
that have been
murderer.
made to the dungeons. This time the dungeons are in color, instead of being simply
Boy, that's the dream.
representations. The wandering enemies have been replaced with a random encounter system which, to me, is not the most pleasing change, as being suddenly taken from the front view to the combat view is somewhat jarring. Many things do not have a visual representation in the first-person view, but by using the overhead view provided by the magical gems, you can see each interactable square on the map. Some of these can be traps and some treasure chests. There are even fountains that can be drunk from, but this can be a dangerous risk, as a fountain can heal you, but it can also do you harm. But the most important thing to find are the marks. These are most often found at the very bottom of the dungeons, and even when you do find them, the marks themselves are not safe. Touching a mark will brand it to the character who touches it, but this also causes damage to them, making escaping the dungeon even more dangerous for an unprepared adventurer. Another important thing to find in the dungeons is the fabled Time Lord, who has a vital clue for the party. It is possible to feel unprepared to explore the dungeons thoroughly, as despite raising the maximum health of the characters, they have not become any stronger. This is because the attribute raising is once more hidden behind several clues. The attribute system in Ultima 3 is somewhat of a combination of the systems in the two previous Ultima games. There are now 4 shrines, each dedicated to one attribute. To raise a character's attributes, you need to journey to these shrines and donate 100 gold for each point you wish to raise. This, you can imagine, will be very expensive, especially if the player wishes to max out all the attributes for the characters. These shrines also act as your only way to receive some special items that are required to complete the game. Several sources in the world mention items called cards, and even their names. You're also told to search the shrines. This points to another new feature in Ultima 3. There is now a function called Other. This allows you to write a custom command to execute. Whenever a clue points you to one of these commands, the other command is written in the dialogue, denoting there's something special about this word. The one problem the party has is that the shrines are not in Sosaria. Instead, to find the shrines, the party must venture into the hidden continent of Ambrosia. This is done by sailing your ship into a wandering whirlpool that moves around the seas. Thankfully, the whirlpool is also marked on the map shown by the magical gems, making finding it relatively easy. If the whirlpool finds your ship though, that will be a problem. As if the whirlpool happens to enter the same square as the parked ship, the ship will be destroyed, requiring you to find another one. The continent of Ambrosia itself is in essence a maze, which would be annoying to explore without the use of the magical gems. There are also several locked doors, most of which lead nowhere. The game does not allow saving in the continent, as technically it is considered an indoor area. This is likely because it's possible to get soft-locked in Ambrosia. There is only one way out of the continent, a whirlpool visible from the very beginning. But since the party's ship was destroyed during the trip through the whirlpool, a new ship must be acquired. Once you do acquire a ship, there is one locked door between you and Sosaria, and if you do not have a key, well, tough luck. At the very least, you have now learned where the inspiration for Sierra Softlocks came from. Returning from Ambrosia, there are still many things to do in Sosaria. From the very beginning of the game, it is possible to find clues about exotic equipment and a town called Dawn. Dawn is a magical town that only appears when both of Sosaria's moons are new. The specific location of the town can only be found by talking to a jester in Castle British, who is surrounded by a field of lava, thus almost necessitating the acquiring of the Mark of Fire before talking to him. Once you do find Dawn, you're given another command you can use with the other function, Dig. Unfortunately, this is where the clues about exotic equipment end, making this, in my opinion, worse than the quicksword in Ultima 2, even though that had absolutely no clues in the entire game. But at least for that, there was an NPC you could have an impulse to talk to, unlike with the exotics in Ultima 3, that are in two unremarkable spots on the overworld map, and where you have to use a specific command that's undocumented and only found from a town that's hidden behind several clues. With the party having been upgraded, wielding powerful weapons and armor, having found the magical cards, it is the prime opportunity to finally assault the castle of the mysterious evil Exodus. Who is Exodus? No one knows, but they must be defeated to restore peace to Sosaria. Even with the mark, the snake will not let the party pass. Instead, the party must once more follow clues to find out the last remaining piece of information to proceed, as only an invocation given by the gods themselves will open the path forwards. The final assault into the lair of evil is daunting, and also the home of one of the most baffling design decisions I've ever seen. After braving many dangers only passable with the use of the marks branded into the party's skins, they are attacked by the floor. Yes, the floor. I understand that the point here was to make an invisible enemy, but why name it the floor? These fights can be somewhat difficult, as you have to basically guess in which square the enemies are, and there's no indication of how many there are. The lack of diagonal attacks does not make this any easier, as the enemies can still attack you from squares you cannot retaliate to without moving. Through adversity, the party perseveres, finally reaching the lair of the enemy, the evil Exodus, spawn of Minax and Mundane, the most horrible thing you've ever laid your eyes on. A punch card computer.
Sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
After recovering from the shock, the party inserts the magical cards into Exodus. Preferably in the order
Nice.
the Time Lord mentioned, since inserting the wrong card into the wrong slot will kill the person holding the card.
Can't you
As
type
the
that?
final card enters
Can't
the
you type
diabolical
that right
machine,
now?
everything around the party
You
begins
can't
to
type that
collapse.
right now.
The evil is vanquished, but the future is left unclear.
You're not gonna let me do my level? Oh my god.
Something's
Something's wrong with my keyboard, but I'm scared of disconnecting and getting bit by zombies.
And the basic form for many games of the following decades has been set. The biggest problems I had with Ultima 3 were on
Piece
two
of
fronts.
shit, I need to spend
First
these
is the
points.
story. While there is more content when it comes to solving
There.
clues and finding a way to defeat the final foe, actual story development is still quite lacking in the game itself. The premise of the story is still told in the manual, which is fine, but you learn practically nothing about Exodus or his motivations during the game. In that sense, the motivation to find the clues and beat the game are not driven by learning more about the world, but by the game being a game, and that's just what you do in a game. The second is the grinding, which is still a large part of the game. Having a larger party and making the attributes raising more expensive means that you need to grind way more gold than before, and it can be really time consuming. I'm sure the idea was that as you explore the world and slowly learn what to do and where, you'd be able to gain a lot of gold doing so, but from my experience, that's not even close to being enough. This necessitated farming specific dungeons for gold just because that was the most efficient way to do so. Otherwise, the game is quite enjoyable and does feel pretty good to play. The jank of the controls doesn't take too long to get used to, and exploring the world does feel quite rewarding. So, in conclusion, I'd say that Ultima 3 is a pretty good game. Even though it is still somewhat raw on many fronts, it is still quite fun to play if you really do enjoy retro games. Anyway, that is it for this time, and the next time I'll tackle the game that really sold me on the series. But until then, Introvert, signing out. Ultima 4, The Quest of the Avatar was released in 1985 and represents a massive change in the direction of the series. So much so that this is the game that many consider the beginning of the Ultima series. Up to this point, the games in the series were mostly disconnected, and in a way, all of the links between the stories were more conjecture than canon. But Ultima 4 begins to wrap everything together, create a consistent story and universe across the games. The first 3 games are now called The Dark Ages of Britannia, and the manual retells the story of the games leading up to Ultima 4, rewriting some of the events of the games or keeping them intentionally vague, such as not mentioning the true nature of Exodus. And so, the story of Ultima 4 begins, from the ruins of the devastated lands, laid to waste and transformed irrevocably by the 3 evils. Lord British rises as a leader, unifying the people of the lands under his rule, leading warriors to drive away most of the remaining minions of the Triad of Evil. With this newfound peace, many societal changes are undertaken. 3 important locations were built: the Lyceum, a place of learning; the Empath Abbey, to foster the good nature people have within them; and the Serpent's Hold, where great warriors were trained to protect the realm from whatever evils that may be. The realm of Caesarea, now known as Britannia, seems to be heading to a new age of peace and prosperity, with philosophers contemplating that instead of looking into the aggressive and violent past, the people of the land should look inwards into ourselves. How can we live in peace with the world if we are not in peace with ourselves? Wondering whether there is someone in the world who could walk the path of true enlightenment. This path is the quest of the Avatar. As you begin the game, you are faced with the first noticeable change. The game now has an introduction sequence where your story is told. And that indeed is the purpose of this sequence. The main character is not intended to be some random fantasy character, but a representation of you, the player. You might say your avatar. Indeed, one of the accolades Ultima 4 can claim is popularizing the term avatar in reference to a player character in video games. As you wander in a park contemplating your fast-paced 80s life, a blue moon appears and disappears, leaving behind some important items: an ankh, a map, and 2 books. These refer to the materials that came with the game itself. The cloth map representing the world, the manual, and the spellbook. The game even emphasizes that you, the player, should read them instead of interpreting this event as something that happened to the character you're playing. After, hopefully, reading the manual, you wander off further. Hearing tunes of a flute, you follow it to a mysterious Renaissance fair, from whence you find a fortune teller who calls you into her carriage. This is where you create your character. Well, kind of. Instead of the character sheet presented in the previous games, this time you're not dabbling with numbers trying to min-max a specific kind of character. Instead, the fortune teller presents to you a series of moral questions. These questions are not only meant to make you think about what you would do in such situations, but the way you answer the questions determines the character class of your avatar. Having answered the fortune teller's questions, the world around you begins to darken. Her voice grows more distant, and suddenly you find yourself in a strange new land. The game is once more played from a top-down perspective, and navigating the world should be familiar to a player who's played any of the previous Ultima games. But once more, the world has changed and is unfamiliar. This is explained as being a result of the time distortion of Minax and the various calamities caused by Exodus. The place from which you start your exploring from depends on which character class you are assigned to, based on the answers in the character creation, as each character class is linked to a specific town. To begin your journey, it would be best to find the castle of Lord British. This time he serves multiple functions in the game, and his castle is likely to become a sort of base of operations for the player. In a sense, Lord British serves functions that are a combination of the 3 previous games. First of all, when asked for help, he will give a line of text that acts as a sort of quest the player can embark on, replacing the function of the Oracle and returning to his function in Ultima 1. Secondly, when asked for healing, he will heal the party for free. And third, he will once again bestow a party member a level up, as long as they have accumulated enough experience. Here, you can also see one of the massive improvements from the previous games. The talking system. No more is the talking just a simple talk to a person, get a line, and that's it. But now there's an interface to type keywords and get various responses from the inhabitants of the world. This is a key feature in the game and massively shifts the focus from just gaining experience and gold into a more fleshed out adventure. Depending on the character, they can have many different topics they are willing to discuss, and many quests in the game require you to learn a keyword from one person, who will also guide you towards some other person, potentially in another city, who will then respond to the keyword you learned, giving you a clue important to your quest. This turns the exploring into a much more involved experience, and using a notebook is practically required, unless you have an extremely good memory, which I don't. The first quests you receive from Lord British are to gain experience and to gather a party of companions. Since in Ultima 4 you no longer create a full party of characters, the incorrect fluff text from the Ultima 3 manual telling you to hire companions you encounter around the world has now become a core part of the game. The possible combination of your party is dependent on 3 variables. What level you are, since the size of your party can only be as large as your level, up to the maximum level of 8. What your class is, as there are 8 companions, and the one who matches your class will be unavailable to recruit. And whether your journey within the correct virtue is far enough. This brings us to the most significant new feature of the game, the virtues. There are 8 virtues in the game: honesty, compassion, valor, justice, sacrifice, honor, spirituality, and humility. Each of the 8 major settlements follow one of these virtues, and is home to the class of characters that is based on this virtue. For example, the city of Yew follows justice and is the home of the druids, and the city of Trinsic follows honor and is the home of the paladins. Using this knowledge, readily available in the manual, you can seek out your first companions. While doing so, you are faced with some changes in the overworld map system. Now there are multiple types of landscape. On basic plains you move normally, but there are also areas of limited movement, such as bushes and hilly landscapes, where it's possible that instead of moving, you may lose a turn. The poisonous marshlands of Ultima 2 also return, but this time it is much more dangerous, especially for the beginning adventurer, as getting poisoned without the appropriate spells can be a death sentence. This thankfully is not the end of the world, as dying in this game is merely an obstacle. Whenever you die, your party will be resurrected by Lord British, and you find yourself in his throne room. Unfortunately, this also resets your food and gold to 200, so dying is still not preferable in most situations. To aid the party in their travels, the moon gates also return, and they are functionally the same as in the previous game. The phase of the first moon determines which of the moon gates is open, and the phase of the second moon determines the destination. And to make this even easier, all of the moon gates are marked on the map with a symbol determining the phase of the moons linked to each of the gates. Other means of transportation include things like the ship, which can now turn and only fire its cannons from the sides, or horses, which allow the party faster movement, and a hidden hot air balloon that can be used to reach otherwise inaccessible areas. Combat has also received an overhaul. Now the arenas you fight the enemies in are not just cosmetically different depending on where you fight, but even in the arenas there can be similar obstacles you encounter in the overworld view. Tiles that can make you lose progress, and tiles that will block your projectiles and movement are now scattered around the arenas. The player is still at a slight disadvantage, since the movement and attacks of the party are limited to the 4 main directions, while the enemies can attack diagonally. As a new feature, when you damage enemies enough, there's a chance that they will turn tail and try to flee the battlefield. Allowing them to do so will end the encounter, but this will not reward any experience points, since experience gain still works in the same way it did in Ultima 3. Experience is not shared and is only gained from kills by the character that strikes the final blow. If a fight seems too much for you to handle, this new feature also applies to the player, and by moving past the edge of the combat arena, you can flee from the enemies. Once you have found a companion to join you in your quest, Lord British will bestow to you another quest, this one consisting the bulk of the game. He directs you to seek the Runes of Virtue. No, not the Game Boy game, but runestones linked to each virtue. These runestones will give you passage into the Shrines of Virtue, where the player can meditate using the appropriate mantra. He can also be questioned about the purpose of the quest of the Avatar and of each virtue and principle that are the bases of his new moral philosophy. Finding each of the required objectives can be considered like a small quest. Some are simpler than others, such as talking to someone who reveals they know someone who knows the location of a rune and then just going to find it, or rescuing someone from unjust imprisonment who will then reveal the location of another rune. This, to me, was the most enjoyable part of the game, trying to talk to everyone to slowly gain more information, not only about how to complete the game, but about how the virtues link together and also connect with the other features of the game, how each of the classes follows a specific virtue and what it means to them, how all of the principles combine to create the virtues which you're trying to follow. It truly felt like I was on the path of the Avatar, being thrown into this unfamiliar world with its own rules and rationales, learning about them, and then trying to follow these guidelines on how to be a good person. This is the root of the quest, not the becoming a great warrior who can use brute force to face any adversity, even if that too is part of the game, but the introspection and the joy of learning how to connect all the pieces together into a coherent whole. Journeying to each of the shrines to meditate, you will find out how to increase your connection to the virtues. Not only can you increase your connection, but you can also drift further away. For example, a technique that was somewhat easy and in the first 2 Ultima games also absolutely necessary, the murdering of innocents for easy loot, will also be dishonorable. Stealing is not just, fleeing from battle is not valorous, and so on. This too changes the game from a simple RPG into a more introspective journey. Not only do you need to do so in a way fitting the avatar of the virtues, fight with honor, help those in need, and be a good and just person in general. There were many reasons why this focus on morality and being a good person was chosen for the game. One of them being how at the time of development, especially in the United States, a new wave of the sort of satanic panic was alive and well, and role-playing and video games were a target for these, what Richard Garriott called in an interview, extremists. As such, Ultima 4 can be seen as a reaction to this kind of attitude the people had. A game to show that not only are games not evil, but they can teach the players the exact opposite by punishing the taking of the seemingly easy way that harms the innocent and rewarding the player for doing good deeds. To keep track of your progress, Castle British has a character called Hawkwind, who evaluates your connection to each of the virtues. If he deems you in tune with a specific virtue, you are then ready to venture back to the shrine to meditate. Doing so while your virtue is fully attuned, you receive a vision of a runic alphabet and become the avatar of that virtue. Do not get too comfortable though, since doing bad deeds can still break that connection and you can lose your avatarhood, requiring you to repeat the process. For your next quest, Lord British guides you to learn of the Stones of Virtue and leads you into the dungeons to find them. Once more, the dungeons are dark, necessitating the use of either torches or magic. Torches can once more only be bought from the guild shop, far from common travel routes. Despite reaching the store being a bit of a chore, this does highlight one humongous improvement over the previous game: the inventory system. In Ultima 3, each character had their own inventory, and to scroll through them, you had to do it manually for each character, while scrolling through a long list of stats and items each character had. This time, the main inventory is unified, and the party shares the same pool of gold and food. The inventory view also doesn't appear in the text parser segment, but instead in the party window, where you can turn pages with the arrow keys to easily scroll through your entire party and inventory without having to reuse the inventory command for each character. This makes equipping your party and checking your equipment vastly more efficient and user-friendly than it was in the last game. The guild store again sells other useful items such as keys and peering gems that serve the same function as they did in the previous game. And if you find the correct clues, the guild shop may also sell a very useful secret item. The second option to light up the dungeons is to use a light spell. The magic system of Ultima 4 has received a complete overhaul, and the spellbook that came with the game is necessary. In the spellbook, the first thing you're introduced to are magical reagents. These are the basis for the new spell system. Each spell requires specific reagents to be mixed together to create the spell, which is then added to your inventory. The amount of spells that can be cast is dependent on the magic points of the character casting the spell and the amount of mixtures in your inventory. Reagents can be bought from magic stores, and some reagents used for the most powerful spells can only be gathered from the wilderness, and finding out from where is one of the quests presented to you by the game. There are also some hidden spells that can be found with thorough exploration. Unfortunately, the mixing of reagents is a bit tedious. Let's say you want to mix 20 pieces of a spell. You have to press mix, select the reagents and accept. Then repeat that 19 more times, which I'm sure you can see will become slightly annoying as you prepare for more dangerous dungeons. The dungeons as well have once more received an overhaul. There are more sprites to show different features and interactable squares, and the dungeons themselves are now in solid colors in the traditional wireframe view. The dungeons also have specific handcrafted encounter rooms, which are traversed in the combat view. These rooms can have any of the secrets and dangers the overworld and city maps also have, from poisonous floors to hidden passages. All of these changes make exploring the dungeons even more intense than they were before, and to survive the perils, the party must be well prepared. The dungeons are also the home of the new character advancement system. Within the dungeons, you can find magical orbs that the characters can touch. Doing so will raise one or more of the 3 attributes of the character slightly,
God damn
while
it.
also dealing a sizable amount of damage. Which attribute or attributes get raised depends on the dungeon you are in. This is best explained by a thorough examination of the philosophy of the virtues. The virtues are based on 3 principles. Each of the principles is also represented by a specific color: blue for truth, yellow for love, and red for courage. These 3 principles are the basis of the 8 virtues, which also receive their color based on the principles it's based on. Honesty is pure truth and blue. Compassion is pure love and yellow. Valor is pure courage and red. Justice is a combination of truth and love, making it green. Sacrifice is a combination of love and courage, making it orange. Honor is a combination of truth and courage, making it purple. Then there is spirituality, which is a combination of all principles, making it white. And last, humility based on none, making it black. These are linked to several aspects of the world of Britannia. For example, the attribute of truth is intelligence, which is linked to mages. The attribute of love is dexterity, which is linked to bards. And the attribute of courage is strength, which is linked to fighters. What defines which dungeon raises which attribute depends on which virtue the dungeon is the opposite of. For example, the dungeon opposing honesty is deceit. The dungeon opposing honor is shame, and so on. This interconnectedness of practically everything in the world makes the universe easy to understand after you've started to draw all of these links together. In addition to the attributes being linked to the dungeons themselves are physically linked together via a system of tunnels deep beneath Britannia. There are 3 altar rooms below the dungeons, each dedicated to one principle, linking the dungeons that are related to that principle.
Oh, I think I've got another
Understanding
stack,
these connections with the features of the world, completing the quest for the Virtue Stones becomes much easier, as does the next quest, where Lord British requests you to venture back into the very depths of the dungeons to the altars of the principles. Inserting the correct stones in the altars, the player receives the 3-part key used to unlock the chamber where the Codex of Ultimate Wisdom resides. The Codex of Ultimate Wisdom is the end goal of the quest of the Avatar. It is a book of infinite knowledge that is only reachable by a complete understanding of the virtues and by someone whose essence is fully attuned to them. This person is the Avatar. The chamber itself is located at the bottom of the Stygian Abyss, a dangerous and impenetrable dungeon. To succeed in reaching the Abyss, the player must travel to the 3 strongholds of the principles to learn their mysteries and find the magical items of each principle: the Candle of Love, the Book of Truth, and the Bell of Courage. After the player has attuned to all the virtues and has obtained all of the magical items required, it is possible to breach the defenses of the Abyss and venture deep inside. But before that, while searching the world for the mysterious items, it is also possible to find clues about the Skull of Mundane, which is told to still contain great evil within. The player can find the skull, the existence of which is already causing a great turmoil within the earth. The skull can be destroyed to receive a boost in the virtues, but it can also be used to destroy all life around it, with a few exceptions. This obviously lowers the attunement to all virtues. The mystical weapons and armor also return, with a quest reminiscent of the one in Ultima 3, but this time you're given more clues you can use to actually find the locations in which the equipment is hidden. The Abyss itself plays out like a regular, albeit very difficult dungeon. It is divided into 8 levels.
Is he gonna kill me? Yes, he is.
Dedicated to one of the virtues.
This
Once
is so
reaching the
annoying
exit,
to me.
The player must have the appropriate stone and also answer answer a question.
What? Oh, no.
pertaining to the virtue the level represents. Without
I
one
can't
or the
believe
other,
that. He-
Passage further below is blocked. At the very bottom lies the chamber of the codex.
I mean,
and
he
to
had
reach
4
it, a
levels on
final
me.
quiz
I
must
get
be
it.
answered. For this, the clues in the game are lacking. But they are there if you look closely enough. When fully attuning to the virtues on the shrine, there were those visions with runic alphabets in them. All of these form a word. To get the correct word, the player should remember which alphabet was shown for which virtue, and then arrange them in the order the virtues appear in the abyss, or the little ankh on the side that fills in each time you reach full attunement with a virtue. As you answer the final question and enter the chamber using the 3-part key, you finally reach the codex.
Wow.
Ultimate wisdom is at your fingertips,
Okay.
and so your quest is complete. Finally, Britannia